Good evening, everyone in the gallery and those joining us online this evening. My name is Councillor Mohammed Samra, Mayor of the City of Maribyrnong, and I would like to welcome everyone to the February 2026 Council meeting. I declare the meeting opened at 6:33 p.m. Maribyrnong City Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land and the Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation and pays its respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I would like to remind everyone to switch phones off or turn to silent. I advise the gallery that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on Council's website. All care is taken to maintain your privacy, however your presence may be recorded. And that's in accordance with Council's governance rules. Meetings may not be photographed, filmed or recorded without the consent of the Chief Executive Officer. Councillors, are there any leave of absence requests? In accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, do any councillors have a conflict of interest in relation to any of the agenda items? I have a conflict of interest in item 10.4, proposed lease, 19 Hocking Street, Footscray, Bulldogs Community Children's Centre, and I will leave the meeting when the time comes. Okay, I call for a councillor to move a motion to suspend standing orders to allow council to formally acknowledge the commencement of Ramadan, which is this week, and to also recognise one of our fellow councillors, Cook Lam, on being awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia. Can I call for a councillor to move a motion to suspend standing orders? Councillor Tuari?
The Council suspends standing orders.
Can I call for a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Yengi? I'll now put the motion to the vote. I declare the motion carried. Councillors, as we suspend standing orders tonight, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the start of the month of Ramadan on Wednesday, a sacred month observed by Muslims around the world and here in Maribyrnong. Ramadan is a time of reflection, self-discipline and generosity. It is a month where Muslims fast from dawn to sunset, strengthen their faith and place a strong focus on charity, compassion and caring for others, especially those less fortunate. Here in Maribyrnong, Ramadan will be marked in homes, mosques and community spaces as families and neighbours come together at sunset to break their fast and share in a sense of connection and belonging. And I know I look forward to attending many iftars and fasting myself. It is always a good opportunity to recenter and get in touch with values. It is also a reminder of the rich and cultural diversity in faith that makes our city stronger. To our Muslim residents, I wish you and your families a peaceful and meaningful Ramadan. Ramadan Mubarak. We also recognise, would any councillor like to speak on Ramadan? Then we'll move on to recognise and celebrate the achievements of Councillor Cook Lam, who has been awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division for her service to the community of Maribyrnong. Councillor Lam's commitment to our community spans many years. First elected in 2000, Councillor Cook has served 4 terms as a councillor, including 2 terms as mayor. Your award is a testament to your long-standing work and your commitment to not only the Vietnamese community, but more broadly across Maribyrnong and Victoria. I know we've had many conversations around the many things you've been involved in, especially supporting women. and marginalised communities. On behalf of Council and the community of Maribyrnong, I congratulate Cook Lamb on this well-earned and distinguished honour, and we thank you for your contribution. Would any other councillors like to speak on? Councillor Yengi?
I'll just be very brief. Just wanted to congratulate Councillor Lam. As you've said, Cook's done a lot of work in our community. She's very well recognised, and actually she's done a lot of work Victoria-wide, so not just within Maribyrnong, but across Victoria, across multiple disciplines. I've been to so many community programs, and every time I mention that I'm a councillor at Maribyrnong, everyone always says, "Oh, so you're there with Cook Lam?" And I go, "Yes, that's right. I'm there with Cook as well." So yeah, I guess it's just testament to the amount of work that Cook's done and just the length of time she's spent giving up her personal time in order to support positive outcomes for communities across Victoria. So congratulations, Cook.
Councillor Tuari?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Yengi said. Just wanted to say recognition well deserved for, you've been here, well, at least 2000, so almost 25, 26 years you've been around Maribyrnong. So thank you for all the work that you've done. And as Councillor Yengi said, in the wider community, if we ever go out, Maribyrnong Council is known by Councillor Lam. The first thing everyone asks is, so you're there with Councillor Lam. So well done on your achievement and very good recognition. Thank you.
Can I call Councillor Thomas?
Just also wanted to echo, having served on council last term with Cook, echo Councillor Yengi's comments that you can't really go anywhere and people not know Cook. She does a whole lot of work, not just across Maribyrnong, but across Victoria, and she's well known and she's well loved by people, and she's a very, very hardworking councillor. So congratulations, it's well deserved.
Would you like the chance to say anything, Cook?
Well, you make me cry. Yeah, thank you so much, Councillor, Mayor, for acknowledging that my work. I mean, as you know that my background was refugees, and for my man, I would want to support and to understand other people, and just, like me, when I arrived here, and I opened Australian people that opened their arms and welcome my family to be here, and I would like to give back that, what I feel I'm owing to the Australian, people, and I want to give back for whatever I could when I still alive, and that's sure that's in my mind, and so, and really appreciating people who nominate me, and I very humble and I privileged to receive it, and thanks again for publicly acknowledging me, and really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. I'll now call a councillor to move a motion to resume standing orders. Councillor Thomas? Can I call for...
That council resumes standing orders.
Can I call for a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Meredith? I'll now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We now move to the exciting part, public question time. Public question time is managed in accordance with Council's governance rules. Members of the public can submit a maximum of 3 questions prior to the commencement of each meeting. As chair, I'll decide who answers the questions, and public question time is limited to 15 minutes unless councillors vote for extension, and I will look at the time and remind councillors when that time has come. Yep.
Mayor, we have received 44 questions this evening. We have Sarah Bluestein, Monty Green, Monty Quinsikara, Sergei Ramnak, Emily Owen and Lauren Jin each submitted 3 public questions to councillors relating to 10.1 evaluation of the Footscray CBD security program. These questions have not been accepted as they seek to preempt a decision of councillors and council on a matter listed for consideration at this meeting and is therefore contrary to council's governance rules. So we could move to the next question.
Yep.
Would you like me to read it out?
Yep,
Yeah.
I have it, yeah. We'll go to question 1. Fadhullah Yusuf asks the following questions. On what specific legal or policy basis does the Council determine that advocacy regarding systemic failures in permit enforcement constitutes interference in operations, thereby preventing councillors from fulfilling their representative duties under the Local Government Act? I'll call for the Director of Corporate Services
Phil.
to answer.
Thank you, Chair. Council acknowledges the importance of residents being able to raise concerns about regulatory processes, including compliance and enforcement. Under the Local Government Act 2020, the CEO is responsible for the management of Council's operations, while councillors are responsible for the strategic direction and representing the interests of the community. When it is determined that an issue is an operational matter, this reflects the distinction set out in the Act between the CEO's responsibilities for directing staff and applying statutory processes and the councillor's role in strategic policy development, community advocacy and oversight through formal council decisions. This distinction does not prevent residents from raising concerns with councillors, nor does it prevent councillors from seeking information or requesting that matters be examined at an organisational level. It simply means that operational enforcement decisions cannot be directed or overridden by individual councillors.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. So essentially, under the Local Government Act, the CEO is in charge of operational matters, and councillors are responsible for strategic direction, but that doesn't prevent any community from raising concerns with councillors. 2, given that the operational decision to repeatedly grant Sunday work exemptions contradicts the intent of Council's own local laws and EPA Victoria standards, will the Council review the governance framework to ensure elected officials can intervene when operational practices consistently fail to protect community amenity? I'll go back to Phil.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Council continually monitors its regulatory and local law functions to ensure they align with both legislative requirements and community expectations. Where patterns of concern arise, such as repeated non-compliance or other ongoing issues relating to amenity impacts, these matters may inform future policy reviews, service planning or changes to internal procedures. Your question regarding Sunday work exemptions and alignment with EPA and local law provisions have been noted. Council will consider these matters as part of ongoing improvements to regulatory processes and will ensure councillors are briefed where changes or systemic issues are identified.
Thank you, Phil. One more question. 3, I have recently been approached by a journalist to share my experience regarding the ongoing construction noise and disruptions. Does the Council assert that standard email correspondence between residents and Council officers regarding these complaints is confidential? Or am I free to provide these communications to media representatives to assist in their investigation? Can you get Phil? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Routine correspondence between residents and council officers, such as service requests, compliance inquiries and noise complaints, are generally not confidential unless it contains personal information about third parties, material subject to legal professional privilege, information relating to enforcement investigations where disclosure may prejudice an active matter, or information explicitly marked confidential for statutory reasons. Residents are free to share their own correspondence if they wish. Council does not restrict individuals from providing emails to journalists or other parties, provided they do not disclose sensitive information about other persons or active enforcement processes.
Thank you, Phil. We have a question from Rebecca Randich asking, why is Maribyrnong Council paying for private security to do the work the police should already be handling? Ratepayers are effectively paying twice, while the underlying issue of insufficient policing goes unaddressed. This raises serious concerns about accountability, duplication of services, and whether public money is being used efficiently or simply papering over failures elsewhere. Can I get Mike to please answer?
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, the Footscray CBD security program was introduced as a time-limited program to support Council's local laws officers and to provide a visible presence in the Footscray CBD. It's not a substitute for policing and does not undertake enforcement functions outside of the Community Amenity Local Law 2025. Police remain responsible for criminal matters, and Council continues to advocate to Victoria Police and to the state government for appropriate policing and service resources, whilst using short-term measures within its remit to support safety, amenity and coordination in public spaces.
Thanks, Mike. Question 2. On multiple occasions, I have contacted police about people actively using drugs at my local bus stops or verbally harassing others. Only once was any action taken, and that was because police were already present at the station on the 31st of October 2025. Despite providing my details, I've heard nothing since. This is clearly a complex issue, yet the primary response from both council and police appears to be periodically moving on unhoused or drug-affected people, with only a handful of arrests. What meaningful actions and long-term strategies are being implemented to address the root causes of this problem?
Thank you, Chair.
Mike.
The Council recognises that these are complex issues linked to homelessness, mental health and alcohol and other drug dependence, which sit largely within state responsibility. Council is working with Victoria Police, health, housing and outreach services to strengthen coordination, improve referral pathways and support connection to services. Council will continue to advocate for increased investment in the appropriate services required for our community.
Thank you, Mike. And to reiterate to the community, there is much advocacy being done on mental health and service provision. Another question from Rebecca. While the council website states that mental health is not a council responsibility, the health and safety of residents clearly is. Given this, why is more not being done to improve and actively promote mental health services within the community? Beyond a small number of online posts, which I had to specifically seek out, there appears to be little effort to meaningfully reach those most in need, including unhoused and drug-affected people. Can I get Maria, Director of Community Life, to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. Aligned with objectives in the Council Plan and the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, Council is committed to strengthening mental health, fostering social connection and improving access to support services as part of our broader efforts to create actively engaged, socially connected and healthy communities. While Council does not deliver clinical or psychosocial mental health services directly, we are actively working with health and outreach providers to strengthen local support and access. Current actions include, but are not limited to, convening the Maribyrnong Homelessness Response and Hotspots Group, which are council-led initiatives designed to bring together organisations within the municipality whose role it is to support people experiencing homelessness and complex needs, to discuss specific cases and coordinated responses to public health and housing, increased on-street presence through place management, local laws and community development staff to provide intervention and referrals where appropriate, promotion of local mental health and AOD services through community channels and partner networks, and a section on our website has been updated which support linking to all available services in the area. Further advocacy to state and federal governments on appropriate responses to local challenges, resulting in outcomes such as the new state government-funded Mental Health and Wellbeing Local and the Salvation Army service in Footscray CBD. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you for those questions. I think it's very important that mental health is at the forefront of our advocacy, ensuring community is getting the support. Submission from Odell Ramnak asking the following questions. The Footscray Community Response Evaluation of the Security Program has found no measurable improvement in community confidence or in perceptions and experiences of safety. The program has instead harmed some of Footscray's most marginalised residents, including through physical abuse, criminal intervention, and deterring people from accessing essential support services. In the light of this evidence, on what basis does the Council justify continuation of the program? Can I get Mike to respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Our independent evaluation of the Footscray CBD security program drew on more than 700 inputs, including community organisations, health and support providers, 600 intercept surveys of people on foot in central Footscray, and 23 vulnerable community members engaged through CoHealth and Mercy Health. It found that the safety concerns in Footscray remain very real for many traders, workers and residents, and that a visible on-ground presence is valued when delivered appropriately. On this basis, the current program is not recommended, but further a time-limited transition away from a security-led model toward a council-led civic presence focused on connection, activation and early intervention.
Question 2 from Odell. Given that the stated aims of this program were to support a safer and more welcoming Footscray, and evidence suggests an increase in harm, does Council consider the trial successful? I'll get Mike to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, the Footscray CBD security program was introduced to support the safety of council-employed local laws officers at a point in time when additional visible presence was deemed necessary in the Footscray CBD. It has since been independently evaluated and is being assessed against its stated aims. The findings are now informing Council's next phase of work, allowing a transition to a broader revitalisation and community-based measures that strengthen safety, amenity and inclusion within Council's remit.
Thank you, Mike. Question 3 from Odell. Given these findings, what will Council do to ensure the safety of Footscray's most marginalised residents?
Thank you, Mayor. Council will continue coordinating with partners, advocating for investment in housing, health and AOD services.
Yep. We have another question from Peter Gartside, asking the following questions. Question 1, I read in the FCR report that violence, criminalisation and surveillance from the Security Patrol Program were concentrated toward women and vulnerable people. On one occasion, a male security guard committed a violent assault on a highly marginalised and unhoused woman who was known to local health services as experiencing severe mental health challenges and a background of trauma. Council states that it has long-standing commitment to gender equity and preventing of violence against women. Will Council reconsider the Security Patrol Program to maintain their commitment to preventing violence against women? Can I get the Director? Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Council's commitment to preventing violence against women and advancing gender equity remains unchanged. All actions undertaken by Council are guided by and compatible with its Towards Gender Equity 2030 strategy, which commits Council to creating safe, inclusive public environments and working collaboratively to prevent violence and discrimination.
I will remind members of the gallery to please allow for the questions to be asked and answered. We have a long agenda ahead of us. Question 2 from Peter. The Victorian Gender Equality Act 2020 requires local government to take positive action towards achieving workplace gender equality by promoting gender equality in their policies, programs and services. In what way does the Security Patrol Program promote gender equality? Mike.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, the local laws team, who are accompanied by the security program, have consistently included female officers throughout the patrols. The team recognises the heightened risks women experiencing homelessness face.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry. I will remind members of the gallery that under Governance Rules Clauses 66.2 and 66.3, members of the public must extend due courtesy and respect to Council and the processes under which it operates. We all want to have a productive meeting, and I want you all to be here to be a part of it. Mike, can you please continue?
Sure. The team recognises the heightened risk women experiencing homelessness face, including vulnerability to sexual assault, exploitation, and intersecting health and mental health challenges. Ongoing staff training in responding to family violence and gender equity reflects these additional vulnerabilities, and in practice the team regularly refers women sleeping rough to specialist support services such as the Orange Door and CoHealth through Council's community development team. The team has also demonstrated care and professionalism by working closely with women experiencing homelessness and other health challenges to connect them to Council's Homelessness Response Network, supporting positive outcomes. The team works hard and takes pride in supporting vulnerable community members, particularly women, children and young people. Council also completed a gender impact assessment as part of its recent review and update of the Local Law 2025.
Thank you, Mike. We'll go to a question by Lachlan Buckley. Firstly, I think we've arrived at our 15 minutes. Can I get a councillor to move a motion to extend? Councillor Thomas. Can I get a councillor to second? Councillor Lamb.
Did you do?
All raise if you're, yep. We'll continue with the questions. Question from Lachlan Buckley. The Footscray Community Response Evaluation found that the main function of the security patrol program is to aggressively police public drinking. It found patrol personnel were employing highly dangerous tactics to manage public drinking, including requiring people to quickly consume the remainder of their alcohol, effectively enforcing heightened levels of intoxication. How does council state creating greater levels of intoxication makes Footscray safer? Can I please get Mike to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. The premise of this question is not supported by the independent evaluation of the Footscray CBD security program. The evaluation of the program does not find that the patrols were primarily focused on aggressively policing public drinking, nor that personnel used practices such as requiring people to rapidly consume alcohol. The evaluation describes the program as providing a visible presence to support early intervention and de-escalation, not an enforcement-led approach. Council does not direct or condone any action that would increase intoxication or risk harm. Creating greater levels of intoxication is not council policy, was not the intent of the trial, and is not a conclusion reached by the independent review.
Thank you, Mike. I'll remind the madam with the placard, please. We need to let the questions be answered. This isn't a forum for comments. We'll go to question 2. The Footscray Community Response Report also found that Maribyrnong Council was enforcing local laws prohibiting public alcohol consumption that conflict with the state decriminalisation of public intoxication, meaning they are likely invalid. Legal experts assess that council is further exposing itself to damages, payouts and reputational harm. Is council budgeting for the likelihood of a court order? A court could order damages upon finding that aspects of the program or council's laws are unlawful. Can I get Mike to please respond?
Thank you, Mayor. To clarify, from November 2023, being intoxicated in a public space is no longer a criminal offence in Victoria. This means that police can no longer arrest, fine or detain someone solely for public intoxication. This reform abolishes the offence of public drunkenness. This decriminalisation of public intoxication does not affect council's powers under the local law to regulate the consumption in public spaces. The conduct of council's local laws officers is entirely lawful as it focuses on managing the drinking of alcohol in prohibited areas or possessing open containers in declared areas. It does not focus on public intoxication, just consumption in public spaces.
Okay. I have now given many reminders, so okay. Please, I'll just remind the gallery, I want everyone to be here for the whole thing. Okay, we'll now go to, public questions are not, sorry, this isn't the space for it. We can have a conversation after this. I am willing to stay back and answer any questions you have. Question 3. The Footscray Community Response Report also found that the security program is increasing resentment and division because some business operating in the mall sell alcohol and encourage their patrons to drink, while a few metres away, other people drinking are harassed and criminalised for the same behaviour. What is Council's view on how this discriminatory contradiction builds or damages social cohesion and safety in Footscray? Can I again get Mike to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. We accept that these distinctions are not always clear to everyone using the space and that perceptions of fairness can influence social cohesion and safety. For this reason, it is our view that safety outcomes are strongest when responses are consistent, transparent and proportionate, and when enforcement is not the default. This has informed the proposed shift away from a security-led approach to a more civic-led, connection-focused presence, aimed to continue to build trust, reduce conflict and support Footscray as an inclusive, shared public space for everyone.
Yep. And it is of the utmost importance that the community can trust us and have faith that we are working towards a shared outcome. Another question from Sophie Rudolph, asking the following questions. One, given there have been several documented assaults by security guards on vulnerable community members, including against at least 2 homeless women, as well as other concerning and legally questionable conduct while the security program has been operating, will Council reconsider the human rights impact of the program and obtain an independent human rights compatibility assessment? I'll get the CEO to respond. Submission 13.
Council considers legal risk. If I can just refer. Thank you through the Mayor. Council does consider legal risk as part of its overall financial governance and risk management processes. I'll just check that I've got the right. I'm referring to, this is Sophie's second question. Yeah.
Sophie's first question.
Yeah, first question. Yep. Sorry, Mayor. Here we go. So Sophie Rudolph's first question, just in response to that. And I would just clarify that Council does take allegations of inappropriate conduct and impacts on vulnerable community members seriously. Any reported incidents involving contracted security providers are subject to review in accordance with Council's policies, contractual obligations and legal requirements. Council will continue to consider the human rights implications of the program as part of its ongoing governance and its oversight of the arrangements, including whether additional independent advice or assessment is warranted to ensure the program operates lawfully, proportionately and with appropriate safeguards in place.
Thank you, Celia. Question 2 from Sophie. Given the serious legal risks identified by the FCR report, is Council considering as a part of its budget process that it may be ordered to pay large amounts of damages to individuals harmed by the security program? Can I get the,
Thank you, Mayor. Through
CEO to answer?
Council does consider legal risk as part of its overall financial governance and risk management. And while we don't budget for speculative outcomes, it takes identified legal risks seriously and manages them through appropriate oversight, legal advice, contractual controls and insurance arrangements. Council will continue to monitor risks associated with the program and respond as required to ensure its financial and legal responsibilities are met.
Question 3. How much rates income is the Council setting aside for this in the eventuation that
through you, Mayor, Council's not setting aside specific rates revenue for speculative or unquantified legal outcomes. As with all programs, potential limits are managed through Council's established risk management, legal oversight and insurance arrangements, rather than through the allocation of dedicated contingency funding for hypothetical claims.
Thank you, Celia. Another question from Elise Cullen on behalf of Footscray North Primary School, asking the following questions. 1, the planning studio review of the Footscray CBD security program acknowledged that patrols and visibility initiatives don't address root causes like homelessness, mental health, distress and barriers to accessing family support services. All challenges are witnessed firsthand working in a local primary school. Given that children and families regularly interact with schools well before crisis points, will Council explore how the schooling system could work with local services to fill these gaps and improve early intervention outcomes? Can I get Maria to answer?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Council's maternal and child health program has a focus on early intervention and receives dedicated family violence funding from the state government. This funding enables family violence screening within MCH appointments, provides workforce training and supports the appointment of a family violence wellbeing support worker. All parents are assessed for family violence risk, and when risk is identified or disclosures are made, families are referred to the most appropriate support pathways, which may include the Orange Door, Safe Steps, Good Shepherd, Child Protection, Victoria Police or Women's Legal Service. This integrated approach supports the early identification, timely referral and coordinated support for families experiencing or at risk of family violence. Further key activities led by Maribyrnong City Council include the Maribyrnong Children's Network and Youth Network, which connect local schools and services to support information sharing and collaboration and aims to improve outcomes for children and young people in our area. An early intervention partnership at the Footscray High School for boys in collaboration with the Men's Project and Jesuit Social Services, community training for service providers on how to respond to family violence, regular education sessions for parents and carers around technology, Dad Fit program for fathers, recognising the need to equip them with strong and safe parenting skills, and workshops for parents on breaking the cycles of trauma and preventing its transmission through families. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Maria. And what I've taken from that is that there's a breadth of work being done with young people, with parents and with schools to get that holistic approach. Question 2, primary schools are trusted community hubs where early signs of distress are identified and families already engage daily. However, we consistently encounter significant systemic barriers that prevent families from accessing the supports they need. Referral pathways are fragmented and services are often inaccessible. Would Council consider a pilot to place an Orange Door practitioner on site once a fortnight across all government primary schools in Maribyrnong to improve service access and reduce escalation into crisis? And if so, what would be the next steps for designing and testing that model with schools, families and service providers? I'll get Maria to answer that, please.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. Services such as the Orange Door are delivered and funded by the state government as part of the broader family violence and child wellbeing system. Decisions about practitioner allocation, service model design and workforce deployment sit with the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing and the Department of Education. Council does not have direct authority to mandate placements within government schools nor to direct the operations of state-funded services. However, local government and Maribyrnong Council does play a role in convening and advocating for services to occur. Mental health and wellbeing is identified as a priority in Council's Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan and within Council's Advocacy Plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, and we will always continue to do what is within our remit, which I believe is important to show initiative and leadership as a council. Question 3, there are approximately 6-7 government public primary schools located within the City of Maribyrnong boundaries. Initial estimates suggest a pilot with 2 Orange Door practitioners providing fortnightly on-site support across these primary schools and could be resourced for a modest portion of Council's annual budget. In considering this idea, will Council commit to exploring costed options, potential seed funding and a timeline for presenting a detailed proposal, including evaluation metrics for Council's consideration in the next budget cycle? I will get, can Maria answer please? Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. The new Orange Door in Footscray has current capacity and manages not only victim survivors of family violence and children, young people as a separate cohort. Orange Door should be approached directly for outreach support in schools. Council can facilitate relationship building through our school contacts. It should be noted that Council already invests in several preventative and community strengthening initiatives, including community safety and wellbeing planning that recognises social determinants of safety, youth services and outreach programs, maternal and child health services that provide universal early years engagement, cross-sector collaboration through local service networks. Through these mechanisms, Council is advocacy working to move the system from reactive responses towards early intervention, prevention and community resilience. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Maria, and it would be remiss if I didn't give a massive shout out to our youth services team and the work being done down in the Phoenix Youth Centre. There's drop-in programs that have been established. There's an increase in usage of the space, not only from young people, but also organisations that do a lot of work with young people. So Submission 15, question from Shane Jones, asking the following questions.
Extension.
Thank you, Councillor Lam, and that's why you're an OAM. Can I ask a councillor to put a motion to extend the time to 15 minutes, Councillor Lam? And can I get a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Pereira, all in favour? Yep, we'll extend it another 15 minutes. Question from Shane Jones. 1, since the closure of Austin Street, North Street has experienced speeding, wrong-way driving and a route-run behaviour on a street where children live and play. Residents are raising separated safety concerns and suggestions of adding speed bumps at the Charles Street and Austin Street end of North Street, along with some speed bumps on Austin, along with some clear road markings that it's a one-way street, have been met with a response of, "We will monitor it." What immediate time-bound traffic calming measures will Council implement to reduce vehicle speeds and volumes on North Street, and by when? Can I get Patrick? Yep. Mike? Thanks,
Mr. Mayor. We've reviewed the existing signage and are in the process of installing additional no left turn signage at the North Street, Austin Street intersection and at the Albert Street, Austin Street intersection. One-way arrow line marking will also be updated in North Street as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mike. Question 2, must the community wait for a serious incident like the one recently witnessed on Geelong Road before meaningful intervention occurs? I can also get Mike to answer, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We're also undertaking an exercise to monitor the traffic impacts of the road closure, and the resultant data will help us to inform the next steps.
Thanks, Mike. A question from Noni Sproul, asking the following questions. 1, how many complaints has Council received regarding safety issues in streets surrounding Austin Street and cars driving the wrong way on one-way streets? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Council's received 7 complaints, all from North Street residents regarding vehicles driving in the wrong direction in their street.
Yep. 2, what actions have been taken to reduce the risk to surrounding residents of Austin Street?
Thank you, Mayor. We've undertaken an audit of the existing street signage. They are compliant with Australian standards, but as outlined in the response above to the previous question, we're installing additional signage at the North Street and Austin Street intersection, that no left turn sign, as well as refreshing the one-way arrow line marking.
Thank you, Mike. Question 3, what communication has taken place with residents to understand the efficiency of these changes?
We'll continue to monitor the effectiveness of the signage, both in response to customer inquiries and also as part of our monitoring of the overall project.
Thank you. A question now from Rosie Gothel, asking the following questions. 1, Footscray has a proud history of caring, compassionate approaches to the poverty and hardship it's always experienced. Council is in a powerful position to advocate to state and national governments for programs that support vulnerable members of our community. The New Salvos Drop-In Centre has a very small step toward productive ways of providing support to people doing it tough, but it does nothing to help people attain sustainable housing, income, health and well-being. What else can Council do to ensure our community has access to meaningful, effective, durable supports and dignity in their daily lives? Can I get Maria to answer?
Yep. Absolutely. Through you, Mayor. Aligned with the strategic objectives of the Council Plan, Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan and Council's Advocacy Plan, Council is committed to supporting all members of our community through improving access to support services and advocating to state and federal government as part of our broader efforts to address the shared goal of improving community health and wellbeing. While Council does not deliver housing, clinical, mental health services directly, we are actively working with local, state and federal providers to strengthen local support and access. Current actions include advocating for cross-government support for more emergency, social and affordable housing, public and active transport, public spaces, amenities and safety, convening the Maribyrnong homelessness response and hotspot groups, increased on-street presence for vulnerable members of our community through place management local laws and community development staff to provide intervention referrals where appropriate, the promotion of local mental health and AOD services through community channels and partner networks, and a section on our website with support linking everyone to available supports in the area, advocacy to state and federal governments on appropriate responses to local challenges and policy support to deliver essential local facilities and services as the population grows. Council will continue working with our local partners and providers and advocating to state and federal governments for increased investment in housing, local mental health, outreach and crisis support services to better meet community needs for vulnerable members of our community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Maria. We have a question from Lissel Thomas on behalf of Maribyrnong Truck Action Group, asking the following questions. 1, when considering planning application TP 353/2025, has Council considered the likely origin and destination of the trucks assessing the proposed facility? I will get Mike, please respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Liesl, for the question. The use of the land for shipping container storage is, as of right, in the Industrial 1 zone and consequently does not require a planning permit. As a result, impacts associated with the use itself, including truck movements and broader traffic impacts, are not matters Council is permitted to assess as part of this application. While Council understands community concerns regarding truck traffic on Williamstown Road and within the wider industrial area, the planning scheme does not allow consideration of the likely origin and destination of trucks for an as-of-right use. The application indicates the vehicles will access the wider road network via Geelong Road and Homewood Road. However, this information cannot be determinative. Notwithstanding this, the use may only continue without a permit provided it does not cause adverse amenity impacts, including from the transport of goods to and from the site. This enables Council to monitor the operation of the use over time and respond if adverse impacts arise.
Thank you, Mike. Question 2, is Council concerned that without adequate traffic measures, approving the application will lead to an increase in trucks transporting shipping containers on Williamstown Road, which is a local residential street?
Thank you, Mayor. For applications of this nature, there's always a concern about potential adverse traffic impacts. And through the assessment process, we try to mitigate these as best we can, where we can. However, as explained, our ability to influence these impacts is limited when there is no permit trigger for the use proposed.
Yep. Question 3, has Council considered including a permit condition on planning permit TP 353 that states that trucks assessing the new facility must not use Williamstown Road to get to and from the Westgate Freeway to prevent inappropriate use of this local residential street?
Thank you, Mayor. Whilst we understand concerns about truck traffic on Williamstown Road, a permit condition restricting truck routes cannot be imposed in this case. The permit relates only to the buildings and works, and the land use itself is as of right. Conditions regulating truck movements associated with the operation of the use would be beyond the scope of this permit and outside Council's decision-making powers.
Thank you, Mike. A question from Paula Watson, asking the following questions. 1, the benefits of the pop-up park in Austin Street have been poorly calculated. The traffic flow has been poorly calculated on the side streets. Several residents have nearly been hit by cars going the wrong way down North Street. When we have challenged people, there has been instances of aggression from drivers who are frustrated at the road closure. 2 park benches and a bit of grass does not constitute a substantial pedestrianised area. How will success of this park be measured? This park may benefit a few, but has been a disaster for people living in close proximity. I cannot see benefits outweighing the consequences. Mike, can you?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of the Austin Street pop-up park is to create a new green space for the community to socialise and gather adjacent to Seddon Village, and we maintain that it is in fact a substantial improvement to the public realm. The traffic impacts on the road closure were carefully considered through vehicle counts and a traffic assessment of the surrounding street network. We understand that there has been some confusion amongst some drivers and that this has had an impact in the local area. We expect with time the additional signage this issue will resolve. The benefits and impacts of the park will be fully assessed at the end of the trial. This will include the impact on traffic movements and further community engagement. If the trial is ultimately unsuccessful, it will be removed and the street will be reopened to traffic.
Thank you, Mike. A question from Robert Martinovic, asking the following questions. Following on from recent questions, the response to roller shutter removal is entirely unsatisfactory. Recently, I looked at the City of Yarra's efforts to improve Victoria Street, which has strong similarities to what is hoped for in central Footscray. Yarra has previously funded a shopfront improvements grant program to remove roller shutters. Currently, any changes to a building facade, which includes external shutters, requires a planning permit and is enforced. Can you provide a clear clarification why Council is not enforcing the removal of illegal installed shutters? The answers to date have been very poor, just skirting around the issue. Can I get Mike to answer?
Council is aware of concerns regarding the installation of external shutters and is managing these matters in accordance with the planning legislation, enforcement policy and procedural fairness requirements. But not all compliance matters result in immediate enforcement action, as each case must be assessed on its individual circumstances, including planning controls, evidentiary thresholds and legal considerations.
Thank you. Question 2. Council is considering funding a range of initiatives to improve the Footscray CBD area, including what's been termed the Matched Business Facade Improvement Program. Is this not premature considering the adverse visual impact at street level that roller shutters create? If this meeting votes to proceed with the notice of motion, it is imperative that any site with a roller shutter is ineligible for any ratepayer assisted funding until the shutter is wholly removed. I would consider, if possible, an IBAC referable incident if public monies were being used to improve buildings with illegally installed shutters. Can I get Mike to answer?
Thank you, Mayor. Council's consideration of CBD improvement initiatives is separate from and does not preempt ongoing compliance and enforcement matters. Eligibility criteria for any ratepayer assisted funding program is subject to council policy, planning controls and due diligence requirements, and do not support the use of public funds to legitimise unlawful works. Any properties with unresolved compliance issues would be assessed accordingly before funding is approved, and Council will continue to ensure that public monies are allocated lawfully, transparently, and in accordance with its governance obligations.
Thank you, Mike. We have a question from Fletcher Bub. 1, can Council please provide a summary financial breakdown of the Dangerous Goods 6XXL Festival held at Footscray Park, including total revenue received by Council, site hire fees, bonds, permits, etc. 2, main costs incurred by Council, including remediation, waste removal, turf, restoration, infrastructure repairs, staff time, security, traffic management, other associated expenses. 3, the total duration the park was partially or fully closed to the public, including bump-in and bump-out periods. And 4, the final net profit to Council after all costs have been accounted for from hosting this event. I'll get Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Site fees are commercial in confidence. Fees for occupancy permits, the POPE and food permits are published on Council's website, and a bond of $15,000 plus GST was taken. A contribution towards some minor turf remediation costs will be met by the event organisers via their bond. Security, waste removal, traffic management and other event-related associated expenses was paid for by the organisers. Staff time was covered as part of our existing services via our festivals and events team. Footscray Park was never fully closed to the public at any time. In the 7 days leading up to the event, limited protected work areas were established on sections of the eastern and western lawns to enable bump-in activities, while significant areas of the park remained accessible. From the Wednesday prior to the event, perimeter fencing was installed around parts of the eastern lawn, sections of the Heritage Gardens and part of the western lawn. However, other areas of both lawns and the Heritage Gardens, excluding the ponds area, remained open from midday on the Friday before the event until close of business on the Tuesday following the event. Hard perimeter fencing was maintained around these areas to ensure public safety during the event bump out. Fencing around the ponds area remained in place throughout due to separate ongoing council remediation works. Due to commercial in confidence provisions, we're unable to disclose a net profit figure for the event.
Thank you. Sorry. Now the second warning. We'll go to question 2 from Fletcher. In January 2025, the proposed $100 million Footscray Library and Performing Arts Centre redevelopment, Creative Rest, was publicly announced in Footscray with Dr. Daniel Molino, then Mayor Pradeep Tiwari and CEO Celia Haddock present, alongside confirming initial federal funding for planning and design. Given the scale of this proposal and the expectations set for residents as a transformational civic investment for Footscray, can Council provide a clear status update outlining substantive, tangible progress made over the past 12 months, and what is the timeline and next publicly reported milestone? Yes. There's still 3 minutes left, but can the councillor call for an extension of 15 minutes? Councillor Tuare? Councillor second the motion. Councillor Yengi, all in favour? Beautiful. Over the past 12 months, and what is the timeline and next publicly reportable milestone? Can I get Maria to answer?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Council welcomed a $5 million commitment from the federal government in January 2025. This contribution has been matched by Council and will support the planning and design for the Creative West Precinct. Since mid-2025, Council has undertaken a comprehensive procurement process to appoint an expert design consultancy team to lead the next phase of work. Preliminary site investigations have been undertaken, including soil contamination assessments, geotechnical investigations and initial traffic and parking studies to inform feasibility and design considerations. Council has also established a precinct planning advisory group to provide guidance and strategic input as the project evolves. The design team commenced in January 2026 and the project is currently in the information gathering phase. This includes engagement with key stakeholders, relevant authorities and broader community groups. Council is also inviting community members through an expression of interest process to participate in the co-design phase. The final concept will be shared with the community in mid-2026. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Maria. And for those that aren't aware of Creative West, I'll suggest doing some reading online. It is a city revitalising project and it is a very exciting one. There's been a lot of work that has gone in the back end and some great movement. Question 3 from Fletcher. Can Council please advise the team start and schedule end date of the current employment contract of the current Chief Executive Officer of Maribyrnong City Council? Can I get Phil to answer?
Thank you, Chair. The Chief Executive Officer is employed under a formal employment contract that was approved by Council in accordance with the Local Government Act 2020 and relevant governance requirements. This contract includes a defined commencement date and term with provisions relating to performance reviews, renewal and termination. All CEO employment matters are overseen by a delegated committee of Council with support from an independent advisor. Details of individual employment contracts are confidential personnel matters and are not disclosed publicly. This approach is consistent with Council's legal obligations and established practice across local government. Council can confirm that the Chief Executive Officer's appointment is current and that appropriate governance and performance oversight arrangements are in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank everyone for their patience. We're almost there. Farida Iqbal asked the following questions. 1, councillors will be aware that in the City of Melbourne, security guard functions were brought in-house by training council officers to undertake security functions. Can council confirm, option B, a council-led civic presence is not a security or enforcement-based program in disguise? I'll get Mike to clarify.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, the proposed council-led civic presence model is not a security or enforcement program.
Yep. So, yep, that's confirmation. Question 2. Council's own evaluation found that the community is desperate for meaningful community participation in council decision-making. Will Council commit to a consultation process with a broad cross-section of community members, experts and service providers before making any further decisions about initiatives to enhance safety in Footscray? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Community and stakeholder input is already embedded into Council's approach through the independent evaluation, the Footscray CBD Place Plan and ongoing engagement with traders, residents, service providers and community organisation. This engagement will continue as Council refines and implements future initiatives in Footscray.
Question 3. Council is proposing to spend $450,000 per annum on a program it has not yet designed. Isn't this an irresponsible and reckless approach to ratepayer funds? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed annual funding represents an estimated envelope to support a coordinated on-ground presence, activation, trader engagement and place-based initiatives in Footscray.
Yep. We have a question from Brian Sanderson asking the following questions. In the last council meeting of 2025, I asked about the removal of roller doors in the Footscray CBD. The planning director said that the planning enforcement team had instead been focused on other areas, then proceeded to provide a list of initiatives which have little to nothing to do with the planning environment. Can the director please answer my question as to what planning enforcement activities have been prioritised instead of focusing on the removal of roller doors? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Planning enforcement activities have focused on several areas, including unauthorised land uses, unauthorised developments, and the failure of permit holders to comply with conditions. In each individual case, Council must decide whether and what enforcement action is appropriate and must focus its resources on those unauthorised activities which cause the most detriment and risk to the community.
2, the director also said there will likely be some roller doors that will never be removed. Does the Mayor believe that the director has abrogated their responsibilities as a planning authority for failing to enforce the planning scheme and local law? Question to me? Yep, go, Mike.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. It's the duty of the Council as a responsible authority to administer and enforce the planning scheme efficiently. This means using discretion to direct planning enforcement resources appropriately, with a focus on activities that cause the most detriment and or risk to the community.
Yep. And to clarify, I believe Mike is a seasoned operator. Question 3, referring to the report in today's agenda, one option is to provide financial support to business owners to improve their facades. Will Council make any financial contribution to business owners contingent on removal of illegal roller doors? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Council funding will not be available to businesses with unlawful roller doors unless the facade improvement proposal includes removal or replacement of the doors.
Yeah. Okay. Almost there, I promise. Warren Penner asked the following questions. 1, as a matter of public interest and transparency, what was the higher fee for the commercial use of Footscray Park charged to the Dangerous Goods XXL rave party hosted on 24th of January 2026, and what was their bond fee, please? Can I get Mike to answer?
Thank you, Mayor. The specific hire and bond amounts form part of a commercial agreement with the event organiser and are treated as commercial in confidence.
We made it available before, as in the bond?
Sorry? The bonds, the questions relating to all the hire fees and the commercial arrangements between the council and the operator.
Okay.
No, it's not relating to the bond.
Yeah. Question 2, significant damage was done to the lawn areas of Footscray Park as a direct the Dangerous Goods XXL rave party on 24 January 2026. Was the bond refunded or kept?
I can advise that the bond amount has been used to make good any impacts on the lawn.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. And last question from Warren. What is the bill to ratepayers to repair Footscray Park lawns after the damage?
Yeah, so as a result, there was no bill incurred by the ratepayers.
Yep. So no bill incurred to ratepayers. Submission 25. Celia,
Yes.
can I get you to read out?
Thank you, Mayor. Marie Pardy, a member of has had a number of public questions relating to 10.1, evaluation of the Footscray CBD security program. Several of these questions seek to preempt a decision of councillors and council on a matter listed for consideration at this meeting, and it's therefore contrary to council's governance rules and will not be read out. However, 2 questions have been accepted that don't relate to that. Would you like me to read the first one out, Mayor, to give you a break from reading questions?
I'll start it, I'll finish. Okay, we'll read them out.
I think you should.
Yeah. 1, fortunately for council, there is ample evidence of the negative impacts and ineffectiveness of security programs, even if they are renamed civic programs for addressing social, health and poverty related issues, which we urge council to consider. Its recent evaluation of the security patrol says the community wants meaningful consultation. There is a clear need for community and expert co-design of short and long-term strategies for addressing well-being and safety issues in Footscray CBD, not short-term fixes. Will Council commit to consultation and seeking expert advice to develop long-term and short-term strategies for Footscray CBD? Mike?
Yes, ongoing consultation and expert input continue to be built into our approach. The Footscray CBD Place Plan, the independent evaluation of the current program and the work of the Maribyrnong Homelessness Response Group and other coordination forums all draw on community trader, service provider and specialist expertise. This engagement will continue as we implement the next phase of revitalisation and refines both short and long-term strategies for the CBD.
Yeah. I think, yeah, consultation is important. 2, when funding is tight, it's critical that Council invest in initiatives and programs that have strong evidence and that has buy-in from community service providers and small businesses, particularly those in the hub area, whose safety and well-being is driving Council's thinking and planning. Can I get Mike to answer?
Council's planning is guided by the safety and well-being of the whole community, including traders, residents, visitors, workers and people experiencing vulnerability. Decisions are informed by evidence, community and stakeholder feedback and our role in maintaining safe, inclusive and well-managed public spaces. The focus is on balanced place-based measures that support confidence, inclusion and access to appropriate services for everyone who uses the Footscray CBD.
Question from Vicky Burgess asking the following questions. I was stuck by the train outages as part of the new tunnel and had to catch a bus from Footscray to Albion a couple of weeks back. I was shocked to see so many people clearly affected by drugs and alcohol. I know Council can't do much but several streets had people in doorways and on benches with trolleys, blankets, pillows, boxes and all sorts of rubbish. Will Council commit to removing all this rubbish on a daily basis to discourage people using Footscray for sleeping? Can I get Mike to answer?
Council undertakes daily cleaning and rapid response across the Footscray CBD, including the removal of waste and hazardous materials. Where personal belongings are present, Council must follow legal protocols that balance amenity, safety and individual rights. Cleaning and maintenance will continue to be prioritised alongside coordinated work with support services.
Yep. And I'd like to remind the community that it's important for this Council that we take a care-led approach. Question 2, I saw on Katie Hall's Facebook that a new clinic would be opening on Albert Street. Katie said Council was paying the rent. How much rent is Council paying and why can't it simply use its own building? Can I get Mike to please respond?
Okay, look, the simple answer to this is we're paying $2,000 a month for the rent of that premises.
3, is Council worried that having this sort of a clinic will actually make Footscray worse, attracting more drug and alcohol affected people? Mike?
Access to appropriate health and support services helps reduce harm and pressure on the public spaces, over time. We work with service providers and other levels of government to ensure services are well managed and integrated with broader safety and revitalisation efforts.
Yep. And this is an exciting time for our community because it will allow for rough sleepers to access support and for service coordination that can wrap around individuals. Okay, that concludes question time. Public question time is now closed at 7:41. We'll now move to agenda item 6.1, confirmation of minutes. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Lam.
Official recommendation that Council confirm the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 9th of December 2025.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. Councillors, there are no reports from committees to be tabled at this meeting. I'd like to advise councillors that in accordance with councillors' governance rules, a councillor may read the petition text but is not permitted to speak to the petition. We will now move to item 8.1, Petition Council Security Guard Program. I'll call for a councillor to move the motion. Councillor Thomas.
That council receives and notes the petition, Council Security Guard Program, and requests the Chief Executive Officer to consider the petition and determine the appropriate response.
Can I call for a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Pereira. I'll now put the motion to the vote. I declare the motion carried. Agenda item 8.2, petition Clearway in Droop Street, adjacent to Gallant Street. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Thomas.
That council receives and notes the petition, Clearway in Droop Street, adjacent to Gallant Street, and requests the Chief Executive Officer to consider the petition and determine the appropriate response.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. I'll now put the motion to a vote. I'll declare the motion carried. Agenda item 8.3, petition, implement parking restrictions in Gallant Street. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yengi.
That council receives and notes the petition, implement parking restrictions in Gallant Street, and requests the Chief Executive Officer to consider the petition and determine the appropriate response.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Tuari. Put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Okay. Now we'll move to agenda item 9.1, planning application. Cecilia, is there anyone that would like to request to address council in relation to this item?
Yes, Mayor, we have received one request to address council, and that has been received from Stephen Leonakis.
Okay, I will invite Stephen Leniakis on behalf of the applicant to address council for a maximum of 3 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I'm here representing RF Corville, who is the permanent applicant for the site at 512 to 520 Geelong Road. And we say, firstly, we support the officer's recommendation. The proposal before Council is a high-quality shipping container storage and warehouse logistics centre, and we say there are 4 key reasons why this project should be supported. One, its site responsiveness. We have designed a logical, safe and highly functional layout by separating truck and car access and positioning the container storage at the rear of the site. We've protected the Geelong Road streetscape, and we've also provided sufficient parking, and all movements will not impact the surrounding street network. 2, environmental. This project significantly improves the site's footprint. We are sealing the container handstand, we are eliminating any dust emissions, and improving local amenity by providing a high-quality logistics centre. Furthermore, our stormwater management plan offers a far superior outcome compared to the existing conditions on the site, and is also supported by Council's engineering team. Enhanced landscaping. We have listened closely to the feedback regarding the greening of this precinct during the course of the application. Through a collaborative approach with your planning team, we are committed to high-quality canopy trees along the Homewood Drive and robust landscape buffers, and I think we've prepared a sort of concept plan to show that. Economic stimulation, stimulation, I can't say that word anyway. This development reinforces Tottenham's strategic role as a premier industrial and freight hub. It represents a major investment in the local economy, providing employment opportunities both during the construction phase and through ongoing operations on the site. This is a highly compliant, well-resolved application that aligns with your vision for the area. We also want to take this opportunity to thank the planning team, in particular Joshua, who provided excellent customer service during the process. We respectfully ask you to support tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephen. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Tuari.
One, that council issues a planning permit for the building and works associated with shipping container storage in the Industrial 1 zone and alternation to access within Transport Zone TRZ2 and special building overlay at 512 to 520 Geelong Road, Tottenham, subject to the conditions in Attachment 1. 2, note the delegation of the Manager, City Development, to settle any matter before the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, which may arise as a result of the issuing of this planning permit. And 3, provide a copy of any decision to Melbourne Water and the Head, Transport for Victoria under Section 66 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987.
Thank you, Councillor Tuari. Can I call for a councillor to second? Councillor Yengi.
Just before we go to the vote, I'm just a little lost. Do we have an opportunity to ask questions of the applicant?
Yep, you do. Are there any questions or points of clarification?
Sorry, I might have been preempting it. Yeah, I just had a question. Yes, you can come up to the thingy. Hi, Stephen. So tonight during public question time, which you heard, we had a couple of questions from the Maribyrnong Truck Action Group concerned, and I share these concerns about the route that the trucks will take to get to and from the site. So I'm wondering whether you can give us any assurances that they won't be running on Williamstown Road. Yep.
I can't give you those 100% assurances, but if you know the site, it's got limited access points, and you have to go through this loop through Geelong Road to get to the site. So there's a bit of a loop, and it's usually from Somerville Road or Francis Street, and those are truck bans already in place. So it's unlikely, I can't guarantee it, it's unlikely they will be coming from Williamstown Road, but I can't guarantee you that. And it's hard to enforce as a planning matter as well, because the use is as a right.
Yeah, I understand that. So I guess my request of you is to go back to the applicant to impress on them that our community is, we were very happy when the truck bans have come in after the Westgate Tunnel opened, and particularly the new the changes to Williamstown Road, and we don't want to go backwards. Yeah. So I really urge you to go back. We know it's not a planning issue, so that kind of restricts council's ability to deal with it in this particular situation, but I really can't emphasise enough how much our community doesn't want those, I don't know how many trucks there'll be on our residential streets.
I'm happy to relay that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or points of clarification? Councillor Tuari?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Councillor Thomas's query. I saw the route that you guys have proposed. Is there any reason why Millers Road could not be an alternate route instead of Williamstown Road?
Millers Road most likely will be accommodated as well. That's probably the exit of the site.
I guess my question was, could it not be that Millers Road could be the only way that could be going to and from, as opposed to not using Williamstown Road?
It'll be very difficult to come to the site through Millers Road, because once you turn right from Millers Road into Geelong Way, you can't get access to the turning circles. You have to go through that loop that comes underneath the underpass where the freight train is. So I can double check that and I can relay that back. But
to the
most likely away from the site and coming from the site, it's most likely from Millers Road, because you'll go down Home Road, Somerville Road, Millers Road that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks. I'd just like to say that as soon as the application came to my attention, I raised it with the residents in my ward so they were aware of what was being proposed. I note that the application was exempt from advertising and therefore did not provide the usual opportunity for public objections, and council's statutory powers in this instance are limited to assessing the development against the planning scheme. That being said, I want to sincerely thank the residents who took the time to write to me and share their concerns. I also want to acknowledge MTAG for their ongoing advocacy around reducing heavy vehicle movements on important local roads. That advocacy is important and continues to influence the broader freight discussion in our city. Following concerns raised at last week's our discussions internally, we asked officers to engage further with the applicant regarding landscaping, dust minimisation and how the site would be present after demolition. And I'm pleased to report that the applicant has agreed to increase landscaping across the site, including within centre of the container zone and in surplus car parking areas near Homewood Road. There will also be clear conditions requiring the container zone and access ways to be concrete pavement or similar hard stand, which assists with dust control and site management. So while this decision must be made within the confines of the planning scheme, I appreciate officers responding to the issues raised and securing improved outcomes through conditions, and also want to thank the applicant for being very accommodating. And I'll continue to work with the residents on the freight and traffic concerns moving forward. Thank you, Chair.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Yep, Councillor Meredith.
Yep. I share the same concerns. So it's industrial zone 1, and which means that it doesn't have to be advertised. However, the possibility of more thousands of trucks down Williamstown Road, I'm just not impressed with that at all. And I don't think, and I've heard from people in the community that do not support that truck movement down Williamstown Road. I would like to see the ban on Williamstown Road come in, not just the curfew, as would many in the community. And so I mean, we've got to assess it on the planning application, but the noise, the truck movement on Williamstown Road, definitely concerned about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Is there any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, just to add to the other councillors' concern, to echo the concerns that the other councillors raised, it's really difficult with these kinds of applications where the planning scheme kind of, has us making a decision with two hands behind our back, and we can't get all of the outcomes that we're seeking. But I am pleased that we did, that our officers were able to negotiate additional landscaping, which will help with the urban heat island effect. These kinds of developments are heat sinks, and they rarely have any kind of landscaping. The applicant had proposed some landscaping, and through I think the work with council officers, they've been able to add to that. So the hard stand and the additional landscaping are improvements to the site, but unless we see those trucks off our roads, we've just got another issue, continuation of a long-standing issue. So,
Any other councillors? Then I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move into agenda item 10.1, evaluation of the Footscray CBD security program. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Tuari.
That council note the findings of the Footscray CBD security program mid-term review shown as attachment 1. 2, support the transition to a council-led civic presence model from 1st March 2026, noting that the model represents a shift from the security-led approach to a place-based council coordination, activation and amenity presence. 3, support a short 4-month bridging extension of the security program to enable full operational readiness of the council-led civic presence model by 1st July 2026 at a cost of not more than $60,000 with a gradual reduction in the presence. 4, note that the council-led civic presence model will have an estimated annual operational cost of $450,000. 5, request a further report be presented to council in April 2026 outlining the detailed design of the proposed council-led civic presence model, including but not limited to A, operating model and scope of the on-ground council team, B, proposed staffing profile, skills, training and governance arrangements, C, hours of operation and alignment to identified daytime and nighttime pressure points, D, proposed protocols for local laws, Victoria Police, outreach and community services, E, escalation pathways, reporting responsibility and role clarity, F, integration with activation, amenity, trader engagement and place-based initiatives, and G, performance measures, evaluation approach and reporting arrangements. And 6, note that any financial impacts will be included as part of the 2026-2027 council budget.
Thanks, Councillor Tuari. Can I call for a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Lam. And would the mover are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the speaker like to move, would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yep.
Sorry, I have a question.
A question for officers?
No. I guess just with regards to the alternate and any amendments, do they happen now or later?
If it's a procedural question, you can direct your question to Phil.
If I may, Councillor Yengi, you're asking about, were you looking to amend, were you looking to the mover to amend part of the motion? Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
So I think, looking at Phil, we can do that
what
now.
Can I do that?
Through the chair,
As long
we've had
as
a
they
mover and
agree.
seconder to that motion, so the mover and seconder would have to agree to your amendment for that to be accepted as part of the substantive motion. You can ask the mover and seconder if they would be happy to accept that.
Can
What
I
was the
request
amendment?
to make an amendment? Is that
We have
allowed?
to ask the mover.
We need to know the amendment first.
Okay. So in part 5, just wanting to add in a H in there, an additional line, potentially. So to state, prior to formally adopting the proposed council-led civic presence model, that council endorsed the release of the draft model for community consultation, with feedback to be reported back to council to inform final adoption.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Yeah.
can.
So what's the proposed date? So the amendment is that council do public consultation by when?
So prior to the formal, so it says, 5 says request further report to present to council in April, outlining the detailed design and the proposed council-led civic presence model. I'm asking that prior to council adopting that and the program and the model, that we endorse for the draft to go out to community for consultation, and then with feedback to be provided back to council prior to us formally adopting something, whatever that end model or program might be.
Yep. So
That's what
essentially,
does that make sense?
Are you okay with the amendment?
Yes, so is that all right? Can I?
Yeah, that's good. That's great.
Yep. So we received confirmation from both the mover and the seconder.
Through you, Mayor, if I could just make a comment in regard to that suggested amendment. You may need to consider the April 2026 for the report if you want to do consultation.
But the report would
Before
come
then.
to council for us to discuss, and then basically we would be endorsing it to go out for
So you'd be
consultation.
endorsing a draft proposal
To go out for
to go
consultation,
consultation.
and then a final report will come back before it's formally adopted once we've had community consultation and feedback. Is that possible?
I just want to know whether, would you check with the director in the area, is it enough time to come?
Is that
Can we just get confirmation from
Mike?
if the timings align and it's doable?
It's certainly doable.
important.
So my understanding is a draft would be presented to council for consideration in April, and then if it goes out on public consultation, it's typically going to take a few weeks, so you'll miss the May cycle, and the final report coming back to council once you've received all your feedback and you've responded to that feedback, you're looking at June as being the time that you'd lock it in.
Which I would think would be important for us to take out for consultation, so I'm fine with that if everyone else is fine with us to go to
We are
June.
okay with that.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it looks like there's alignment. So I think we're okay with H.
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
So, thank you. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks. So just before I begin, I want to sincerely thank all the residents, traders, community groups and service organisations who reached out to us that by email, phone and in person, the level of engagement has been significant, and I genuinely appreciate the time and thought people have taken to share their experiences. This is what democracy should look like in our city, people being heard, councillors listening and decisions being shaped by that engagement. So thank you to everyone. 6 months ago, Council introduced the Footscray CBD security program in response to real and visible concerns. Traders were telling us they felt pressure, residents were raising amenity issues, we were seeing complex challenges around homelessness, mental health and connection to services. And in the lead up to this program, our city experienced 2 tragic deaths that deeply affected the community. There were visible challenges in the precinct and we acted. The program commenced in September 2025, operating 24 hours per week, pairing private security with our local laws officers to provide additional visible presence and support safe service delivery. It was designed not only to reassure traders and visitors, but also to engage respectfully with vulnerable people and connect them with available services. Importantly, the original motion required that the security team reflect the diversity of our community, and I'm pleased that the personnel engaged were culturally diverse, and many of them could speak multiple languages where required. And that mattered in Footscray. It helped ensure respectful engagement across cultures and communities. We also complied with the report requirements set out in the motion. The many groups who took an interest in the program were kept informed and engagement remained ongoing throughout the 6-month period. From the beginning, we committed that this would be independently evaluated. That review now has been completed. And the findings are clear. The program provides a short-term reassurance during patrol hours, but it does not address the underlying drivers of safety, amenity and well-being. Experiences across the community remain mixed. There are also concerns about role clarity and coordination between council, security, police and services. Most importantly, stakeholders did not say stop completely. They said that the approach needs to be better integrated, clearer in purpose and more strongly connected to services and activation. And also I want to place on record that I received many correspondences, but also correspondence from a traders association in Footscray. They have acknowledged that long-term structural solutions are essential, including mental health support, outreach and activation, but they have also stated clearly that over the past 6 months, traders have experienced a significant improvement in workplace safety, increased customer confidence, fewer violent incidents, and a reduced need to call emergency services. They have respectfully urged Council not to remove the current support prematurely while longer-term solutions are being developed. These are some of the reasons why option B is the right direct decision. Option B transitions us from a security-led patrol model to a council-led civic presence model focused on coordination, activation, amenity and service integration. This is not about increasing or removing presence, it's about strengthening leadership. The proposed model provides a consistent daily on-foot council presence in the CBD. It strengthens trader engagement, it improves coordination with outreach and community services, it supports activation and amenity reporting. It enhances emergency coordination when required. It is explicitly not a security patrol and does not replace Victoria Police. And that distinction matters because security alone cannot solve structural challenges. Coordination can, activation can, and clear civic leadership can. We all know that Footscray has issues. We know there are many disadvantaged people living there. We know there are complex social pressures at play. This recommendation is about them as much as it is about traders and visitors. It is about encapsulating all of these realities and working towards a coordinated approach that keeps every resident in mind. The shopkeeper, the young family, the long-term resident, the person sleeping rough, and the service providers. This is not about choosing one group over another. It is about building a system that works for all of them. We've already invested heavily in revitalisation through our place plan, the revitalisation lead, public realm improvements, trader support, activation initiatives, rental space for the Salvation Army for their outreach work, business improvement programs and ongoing advocacy to the state and federal government. Option B integrates safety, amenity and economic revitalisation into one coherent place-based model, and it does this responsibly. The recommendation includes a short 4-month bridging extension with a gradual step down in security presence while the council-led team is established. It allows knowledge transfer from current security personnel who have built strong relationships over the last 6 months. It supports local laws officers to continue their work safely. It gives services like the Salvation Army time to properly settle in. I think that is measured governance. As councillors, we are not here to outsource responsibility, we are here to lead. And option B positions council as a convener, connector and advocate. It strengthens formal coordination with outreach and community services. It aligns enforcement, care-based responses, trader engagement and activation into one place-based operating model. I believe that's the future. The future is not reactive patrols. The future is integrated place management. The future is visible council leadership on the ground. For those worried about safety, this maintains presence and improves structure. For those concerned about exclusion or unintended impacts, this moves us towards a more trauma-informed and coordinated approach. And for traders who want stability and confidence, this creates a daily identifiable council team embedded in the precinct. For our community, this shows us we listened, we evaluated, and we evolved. We all know Footscray deserves more than the patrols. It deserves coordinated civic leadership. And tonight we have the opportunity to deliver that. I strongly support option B and encourage all my fellow councillors to support the officer recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tuari. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? Councillor Lam.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Councillor Tuari already gone very, very comprehensive and detailed about that. But I would like to share that. Thank you, Councillor Yankee, to adding more item on that amendment. I think we as a councillor here, we would like to own way that the business is an icon for the council, and it's very important. And the safety of the community, and we all look into role. And I think you, Councillor Tiwari, you itemized all the list there, and you're already elaborating more. I have nothing more to say, but thank you very much for all the people involved and the staff as well. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Meredith?
Yep. Yeah, look, I like the council's homelessness response. I like that council is working with organisation and support services. I think where my frustration comes from as well is that it seems like council is doing so much more of what state could be doing. So I do appreciate the health hub from the state government. That's great. I appreciate the mental health local that's coming through too. It'd be great to get more information on both of those. But it does feel like Footscray is experiencing so many different, whether it be perceptions of safety, whether it's like homelessness, and it's really clearly obvious that this is a divisive topic as well, and that there is so much going on in Footscray, and I just feel like that I would like the state government to please throw everything at Footscray and help, please. Do I like all of this? No, I like the civic-led model. I do like that. I do like that there's a proposal in there to consult with the community. I would like to have seen the security conclude and the other program in place. Yeah. And again, I would like to see the state government to really help Footscray. I don't want breadcrumbs. I want the real deal.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Any other councillor would like to speak to the motion? If there's no further, I might just add. Yep, Councillor Inge.
So I try not to repeat too much of what's already been said, but I would like to begin by sincerely thanking all the community members who took personal time out of their schedules to contact councillors and our executive team to share your feedback, to share your concerns, and generally to share your aspirations for Footscray, which obviously you're all here because you love Footscray as much as we love Footscray as well. And I think, whether you support the program or you've raised concerns, everyone's input is really valuable. Your perspectives ensure that councillors receive a broad and diverse range of views from across our community, and not just from one group. Your contributions also help us see issues through different lenses, and that is essential in enabling us to make well-considered and balanced decisions. So thank you guys who are here, and thanks to those that are online. When we endorsed this pilot program last year, our intention was to introduce an initiative that could provide some immediate improvements to safety, health and wellbeing for traders, for vulnerable individuals who call Footscray home, and for many people who visit and enjoy our precinct. And we always knew that this program would not solve every challenge before us, because we know that complex social and health and wellbeing issues require systemic change. And this can only be achieved through adaptive, place-based solutions developed in collaboration with key partners. Nevertheless, the program has delivered some positive outcomes. We observed a deterrence in public drug use and dealing. The traders reported fewer incidences of property damage. Some of our homeless residents shared that they actually felt safer with this program, and due to the presence of local laws officers and security personnel, particularly feeling safer from other vulnerable cohorts that were there with them, so other homeless individuals that were around there with them as well. As most of you here would know, that council also commissioned an independent review evaluation of the program, which is available on our website for anyone who wants to read it. The report outlines several recommendations for moving forward, and in particular calling on council to take on a coordination role, bringing together local services and key stakeholders. I just think it's really important to call out that all of us councillors we share a collective desire to move away from a security-led model and basically towards an approach that's grounded in community development. And this direction we're committed to pursuing, which, you know, obviously from the motion that most of you have already seen up there, the officer recommendation, sorry, there's going to be a report coming back to us in April. So the model that's been proposed, there's still a bit of work to be done around it to look at, you know, what that future program is going to look like, how we support our community, how we support the vulnerable cohorts in Footscray, and how we integrate, you know, our program with all other social supports that exist out there in community. So we're looking forward to receiving that report from officers to see, you know, what might be possible. And then we're obviously really keen to go out to community to share that with you guys and to get input from you, so that together we can develop a, you know, a path forward collectively to support our much loved community over here. But I will reiterate that, you know, regardless of the outcomes of this report that's going to come to us in April, what we're proposing is one component of a bigger picture, and it's really going to take a coordinated, multi-pronged approach involving council and, you know, lots of other key stakeholders to be able to address a lot of the systemic issues that are affecting our community. And so just, I guess, asking for community to bear with us as we sort of look at, you know, where we go to from here and develop something that hopefully collectively we'll all be happy with and will, you know, support together.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. If there aren't any other councillors that wish to speak to the motion, I'll just say, Councillor Thomas.
Beauty, thanks. So tonight I'm voting against this recommendation for many reasons. And the underlying one being because I don't support security patrols in the Footscray CBD. I didn't 6 months ago when the first program was rushed before councillors, and I don't support this new 4 months security program that is being proposed tonight. And even with Councillor Yengi's amendment, the recommendation still contains the use of security for a further 4 months, and I can't support that. What I do support is a refocus of our collective efforts on supporting people experiencing homelessness, mental ill health, effects from substance use, family violence, loneliness and isolation, and who are trying to run a business amidst a sometimes chaotic and difficult business environment. People who are a part of our community, people who share the same spaces as us, breathe the same air and deserve the same life outcomes that many of us enjoy. In a weird twist of the universe, in July 2025, I ended up moving the motion that brought in the security program, knowing that it has the numbers, as they say, and the numbers are everything in politics. So my aim, though, was to try and wrap some support around it, and it's the reason why we have the evaluation report detailing the experience of those who experience the security program. In preparation for tonight, I had prepared an alternate proposal that would highlight how we could spend this money instead on a community-centred model, picking up on the clearly articulated opportunities for true community engagement in the report, for a community safety approach that prioritises vulnerable people and their needs first. I thank officers for their work on what is clearly a more community-centred model, the civic presence model, but I cannot vote for continuing the private security model as the means by which we achieve this important goal. We should be ending the private security model and putting our efforts into a model that supports vulnerable people, not proposing some kind of halfway house that stops us realising the opportunities in the report more fully. The issue has certainly divided our community, which is unfortunate. We all want to see a vibrant, healthy, supported and cared for community in Footscray and right across Maribyrnong. The only way to achieve that is by working together, taking an approach that's led by empathy, understanding and healing. We know that as our community has changed in so many positive ways for lots of people, it's not the same for everyone. People are and have been left behind. They've also been let down by the system, by levels of government and people within them with the responsibility for providing the services, the housing, the AOD support, the refuges, the showers, lockers, toilets, sandwiches and cups of tea. Nothing will change until the system changes. To those in the community, the traders and others who might feel let down by my vote against this second security program, I'm sorry. Not for voting against it, but for having to make a choice about what type of community I want to live in, one that uses a security presence to solve difficult issues, or one that recognises that when we take that approach, we all become victims. Thanks to everyone who has taken the time to contact councillors sharing their views, to the councillor group for respectful conversations about this issue, to council officers who have tried to navigate a way forward, and to those working on the ground who were asked to take on a role that was a little different from the one they were employed to do. I encourage my fellow councillors to take what we've learned from our experiences, our conversations, from the evaluation reports, and end the security in Footscray CBD tonight.
Councillor Lena?
Thank you. Yeah. I just have a question about the amendment, because the way I interpreted point 2 is that the council-led civic presence model is essentially a placemaking approach that would start on the 1st of March, and that would include community engagement and participation, and then we would get a report in April to help kind of consolidate that further. And the amendment then pushes back that process to April, May, which to me extends out the reliance on the security under this transition model kind of even longer than it maybe necessarily could have been even under this transition plan. So anyway, I just don't exactly understand what we've achieved with the amendment, but I'll leave that to the rest of you to discuss. While many of the...
respond to that?
I don't know what the...
So the time for points of clarification and questions was when I'm called for it, so...
The amendment hadn't been made.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm just not entirely sure of the validity of that point. But anyway, while many of the revitalisation initiatives currently underway in Footscray are very positive, the private security patrol element should be stopped immediately in favour of more direct community and economic support. Prior to the initial security program, I frequently highlighted that research demonstrates that a security approach has not been found to be an effective solution. And that position has been further supported by our own evaluation process and the limitations of the model. We need to prioritise rapid transition to initiatives that work. Council rolled out the security in a month, but the proposal is to transition away from it over 4 months. The previous decision was for a 6-month time-limited program. That was our transition period. Community agencies, vulnerable community members want us to be investing in the things that work to support people in our community, local businesses, workers, and urban regeneration. With limited funds, we have to be very diligent to ensure that we're making community-centred decisions. The other big consideration for me is that this is more cost shifting to local government. Why has it got to the point that local government is having to even consider private security? I suggest we vote against this recommendation as it conflates all the other place-based work that we're doing and lumps it into a conversation about rolling out a new security program. This is not what we're here to do. The hospital is opening. The hospital is opening. It needs to be at sufficient capacity. The Salvo's Health Hub is overdue, and we still have not been fully advised of the program scope. We need to focus on the work that is actually the responsibility of local government, and we need to advocate more strongly for preventative health, mental health and AOD services, a real plan for housing, and investment in the bus interchange consolidation and urban renewal. This situation is a waste of everybody's time. We shouldn't be in this position to begin with. We should be voting on the things that bring us together and not the things that divide us. And we don't want private security in Footscray.
Can I please remind the gallery to refrain from clapping or making any noises?
The community's made it clear that we need to shift to a social, community-led placemaking response as quickly as Council decided to implement security. I can't support any proposal to continue a program that has confused people and divided us.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Our community and our council is dreaming big for Footscray. We want to see, I believe, a city that is safe and a city that is supported. And I'm a big believer that two things can be true. And it is important that we remain clear and honest about the role of this program. Security officers do not replace police. They do not have police powers. Their role is to observe, to support council officers, and to contribute to an environment where people feel comfortable spending time in Footscray. There are multi-layered issues in Footscray, if we are being honest and frank. And multi-layered issues require multifaceted solutions. Right? I won't sit here and say there's one solution for Footscray. That's why this council has undertaken multiple concurrent initiatives that address different aspects of tailored issues. We've established a homelessness response network that brings together our service providers to create an environment of collaboration. We have created a CBD Place program to explore what investments does Central Footscray need. And we've worked with state government and Salvos to bring a community cafe into the heart of Footscray to support most vulnerable. We also must listen to those who use these spaces every day. Frequently, I go down to Footscray, and I not only speak to traders, but I speak to kids, I speak to young people, I speak to people that are just walking by. And what I've heard consistently is that people do want to feel safe. I was speaking to a trader recently. He was representing a group of traders in Footscray. So I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone who would like a conversation outside. I'm happy to enter a conversation with anyone who wants to continue a conversation, and we can explain it in detail. I understand, and the most important thing.
The gallery need to let the Mayor speak, please.
This council has strengthened its work with outreach providers to ensure people experiencing homelessness are treated with dignity and connected to the support they need. The Office of Recommendation reflects a balanced and thoughtful path forward. It maintains continuity, and it is a transition. We are investing a considerable amount of resources into what's next, right? And what's next is that we create a sustainable program that brings together different services so we can wrap our arms around the most vulnerable communities that are now experiencing hardship in Footscray. Ultimately, our responsibility is stewardship of community well-being and of a Footscray that remains welcoming, inclusive and safe for all. Would the mover like a right of reply?
Yes. I want to respond briefly to the suggestion that we should simply end the security presence immediately. To withdraw now without a structured handover period or any plan risks undermining frontline safety, trader and public confidence, continuity of service relationships, and the safe establishment of the new civic presence team. This is not theoretical. Over the past 6 months, the on-ground team has built relationship with traders, vulnerable community members and local services. They have supported local laws officers to do their job safely. That knowledge and those relationships cannot simply be switched off overnight. Ending the program abruptly does not create...
Please, I want the gallery to remain here for the entirety of the conversation, but...
Ending the program abruptly does not create coordination, it creates a gap. We are transitioning to a new model and I support that transition.
Members of the public must extend their courtesy. I have reminded the member in the gallery with the black shirt, I reminded countless times and I've shown immense patience. We have a meeting to get by. Myself and other councillors are more than willing to have any conversation you would like, and I'll make that time for you available personally. I'm happy to answer questions after we conduct the meeting, if that's okay. Councillor Tawari, please continue.
We're transitioning to a new model and I support that transition, but transition requires planning, staffing, governance, clarity and operational readiness. Given the complexities of the issues of the CBD, I would have expected a fully costed, operationally detailed proposal from any councillor here before advocating for an immediate stop. Without that, we risk creating confusion about Council's statutory role and raising serious governance concerns. This is not about defending security.
I will give one last warning. I've been extremely patient.
I'm almost done.
According to the governance rules, we need to finish the meeting at a certain time, and I would want to complete the entire agenda item. As you can understand, we have a full agenda today. I will make time available for anyone that wants to ask questions. Councillor Tawari, please continue.
So this is not about defending security as a permanent solution, and it never was. It's about responsible sequencing. We have an evidence-based plan before us. It is staged. It protects stability while we implement reform. Abrupt withdrawal is not reform, it's a risk, and I'll not support creating avoidable risk in the CBD. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tawari. I'll now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote.
Can we maybe put our hands up so that the gallery wants to see how councillors have voted? Sorry, point of order. I don't know what this is, but just to show the gallery, they're asking who voted for what.
Yep.
Oh, you can see
I
it.
will
Okay.
remind members of the gallery that photographs are not permitted within this chamber. It is all publicly available and will be released after the meeting.
Councillors have already voted.
Yep,
so
councillors have already voted. I declare the motion carried.
move to the next one.
We'll now move to agenda item 10.2. I will pause for a minute.
Screens are in, but you can't even see from here. The screens.
Yep. It is all on public record and a live stream that you'll be able to see.
And what's the real life issue in Footscray? It's absolutely shameful.
And the argument is, okay, especially this one. That one that talks too much.
Please. Okay. We will now move to agenda item 10.2, further response to notice of motion 2025-11, business attraction incentives for Footscray CBD. I'll call the councillor to move a motion. Councillor Tawari. I'll call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? No questions? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Okay.
And just want to say that tonight's not...
Sorry, Councillor Tawari. Is it okay if I get you to be the officer recommendation?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it is. I seconded it. I'll proceed to reading the officer recommendation, and that's 1, that council note the existing business support and business concierge services provided by council to businesses in and around the Footscray CBD. 2, note the legislative and operational constraints associated with waiving planning application fees. 3, note that current permit turnaround times are broadly consistent with the requested 30-day timeframe. 4, implement alternative businesses attraction and activation measures for the Footscray CBD, including A, using Footscray as a pilot area for business-friendly council process improvements, B, a matched business facade improvement program, and C, an extension of the Creative Places program. Is there anything else? Stops it and that's it, thank you.
Would the seconder... yeah, can I get a seconder, please? Yeah, Councillor Thomas. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. As mentioned, I was the mover of the original motion, but also someone who's been talking about the future of Footscray since my appointment to council just over 12 months now. And for far too long, Footscray CBD has been left unattended. Vacancies have grown, confidence has slipped, traders have felt unheard, and our largest business precinct outside of High Point has not received the strategic attention it deserves. And for me, that could not continue. So when I brought forward the notice of motion 2025-11, it was about forcing this council to confront a simple reality. If we want Footscray to thrive, we must act deliberately. We must remove barriers, we must increase confidence, and we must send a clear message that Footscray is open for business. And I'm proud tonight to support the officer recommendations because they represent real movement. The report does not hide behind any excuses. It tests the idea of fee waivers properly. It assesses the legal and equity risks. It explains why blanket waivers are not the silver bullet some believe them to be. And then importantly, it moves forward with real solutions. It proposes using Footscray as a pilot for business-friendly improvements. It proposes a matched business facade improvement program, and it proposes extending the Creative Places program. For those here and online, let me explain what that means in real terms. The Creative Places program turns empty shop fronts into opportunity. It supports artists, small operators and emerging businesses to temporarily activate vacant spaces. It reduces visual vacancy, it increases foot traffic, and often those temporary activations become long-term tenancies. The facade improvement program is just as critical. When shop fronts are upgraded, signage improved and buildings presented with pride, it changes perception. It signals momentum and it gives investors and landlords confidence to reinvest. My motion has evolved through officer assessment and refinement. That is good governance. That is how ideas become implementable policy. And what we now have before us is not symbolic, it's structural, it strengthens business support, it strengthens activations, it strengthens presentation. Footscray is resilient, it's diverse, it's entrepreneurial, but it needs leadership. We cannot afford another few years of drift and complacency. We must back our traders, we must back our small businesses, and we must back our CBD. I'm proud that this conversation has brought us here, and I strongly encourage all councillors to support the officer recommendations so that we can begin the next chapter of Footscray's revitalisation with good planning, with good focus and confidence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tawari. Would the second like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just say a few words. I just want to, just make a couple of comments about the Creative Places program, which was council had some grant funding in the last financial year, I think. So we had about half a dozen spaces in the Footscray CBD, which local creatives could take up with reduced rent, and that was a really successful program. And a couple of businesses stayed on after the program, and one stayed on about 12 months after the program. So I'm really pleased to see that we can bring that program back even after the grant funding has ended, and also that we're going to propose to extend it just a little into kind of some co-working spaces and just give it a little bit more of a little bit more breadth, which is great, and I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that. And being someone who went to uni in Newcastle, I go there often, so I've seen the Renew Newcastle program and the similar program in Long Jetty on the New South Wales Central Coast, which basically transformed Long Jetty. It used to be quite run down, and now if you go there, there's a whole lot of businesses which have different coloured facades and a whole variety of locally run small businesses, which is really great. So it's really rejuvenated that business area, and I'm hoping that we'll see some similar results in Footscray. So I support this, and I hope other councillors do too.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No, there's no questions. Yep. Was there any questions on clarifications?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, yep, Councillor Tawari.
Clarification. With the business facade improvement program, and it stems from a question the director replied to earlier on in the meeting tonight, I wanted to know, is that limited to only a facade improvement? Does that mean that traders can or can't apply for that funding to modify or change their roller shutters? What does it exactly mean?
Thanks for your question. And through the chair, I guess effectively our response earlier was that we wouldn't be rewarding those that are non-compliant, but those that were looking to improve their facades and achieve compliance, they would be eligible for this program.
Thank you, that answers my question.
Would there be any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Yeah.
I think I just want to say I would love to see the buildings cleaned up. Yeah, and I saw this picture the other day of these beautiful, I can't remember where it was, but it was in the UK somewhere, of all these beautiful old Victorian shops with these beautiful murals there, and I just thought that would look great. And I do love the Creative Places program. It's good.
Councillor Carroll?
I think the outcome of this investigation is good, because I think it's tricky just to waive fees, but I think this can benefit old and new equally. And we've obviously got a lot else happening across the precinct. I know the team's working really hard to support traders to get up and running, and we have a quick turnaround on permits already through the concierge service. I think from an architecture and urban regeneration perspective, the alternative proposal around the facades and the Creative Places program is well placed to enhance the precinct, but also bring more community economic activity. We have received a couple of questions about sort of the financial sustainability of some of these programs, especially when they seem to improve capital growth for some landlords, but I think you've understood that we also have an opportunity to look at a special rates levy so that we can balance the social spatial contribution with some investment as well into Footscray, because that's where a lot of activity needs to happen. And I'm interested to hear people's feedback on the business-friendly council process. So come to Footscray and let us help you start your business, and then give us feedback on that process.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? So we've heard the details. I believe this motion delivers visible, tangible support, and it will boost confidence in the CBD. It's fair, it's practical, and it creates momentum. You know, businesses are supported. I think it has a follow-up impact, and the wider community benefits. Extending creative places means creative, early stage and social entrepreneurs can thrive, keeping Footscray vibrant, innovative and resilient. It's an investment in the heart of our city, and I fully support it. So we will now go to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now go to agenda item 10.3, quarterly performance and financial report for the period ending 31st of December 2025. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Tuari.
That council notes the quarterly performance and financial report for the period ending 31st December 2025 as shown as attachment 1, and 2 notes the 2025-2026 second quarter performance and financial report, and that a revised budget pursuant to section 97(3) of the Local Government Act 2020 is not required.
Yep. Not sure where. Okay, then we will wait 1 minute and
I'm not going anywhere.
until the council is returned. Okay, can I get a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Yengi? Is there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Would the second like to
Formally
speak to the motion?
seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillor Lamb has went to the bathroom.
We don't have to wait.
Okay.
It's carried.
Yep. The motion is carried. We'll now be moving to agenda item 10.4, which I do have a conflict of interest, and I will vacate the chair and leave the chamber.
The deputy mayor.
And the deputy mayor will now take chair.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to use that. Yeah, too bright.
Do you need yours plugged in?
Thank you. And just reading that, isn't it?
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Yep. Okay, so we now move to agenda item 10.4, proposed lease 19 Hocking Street, Footscray, Bulldogs Community Children's Centre. I call for a councillor to move the motion. Cooklam, Councillor Cooklam.
Office recommendation that Council number 1 consider the 4 written submission shown at the attachment 1 and the analysis of submission in table 1 of this report, and number 2, having considered all submissions and pursuant to section 115 of the Local Government Act, authorize the Chief Executive Officer to enter into the lease agreement for the key term as set out below. A. Tenant Footscray Football Club. B. Premises Bulldog Community Children's Centre located 19 Hocking Street, Footscray, excluding the 2 MC Hex room. C. Term 10 years. D. Permits you to sublet the premise to an approver not-for-profit enterprise that provide and will use the premises for a provision of childcare and community-related service approved by Council. E. Rental $2,000 per annum plus GST. F. Rental increasing 3% increasing per annum. G. Maintenance, Council maintenance essential safety measure, ESM only, and the tenant is responsible for all other maintenance. H. Capital work, the tenant to provide a minimum of $500,000 of capital work during the first 3 years of the term. I. First right of refusal, not including in favour of the tenant. Number 3, or such as other alternate term as determined to be reasonably necessary to Council's Chief Executive Officer to concluding negotiation with the tenant on the proposed lease.
Cool. Thank you. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. And are there any questions or points of clarification? No, not at all. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, very briefly, Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank all the staff who's involved working. This project is a number of months and did a lot of consultation with the community, and I mean a few council there visiting the facility and work through with that. And I'm happy with retaining the non-profit organization's condition to the subleasing, and also to removing the first right of the refusal option for the futures lease. And the term and the lease being the 10-year and including the requirement of the capital work is very important, and I support that motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Just to say, yeah, it's been a bit of a long and winding road, but we got here in the end, a few consultations, and thanks to the, I guess, the parents and the community that surrounds the Bulldogs Community Children's Centre for being patient with us, but also for letting us know what they thought. You know, sometimes we don't like what we hear, but it's always good to hear from the community on these issues. So I think we've ended up with a good outcome. As Councillor Lamb said, a 10-year term, a contribution to the capital works, maintaining the not-for-profit and the first right of refusal not included in favour of the tenant, so that we can do something different at the end of the 10 years. So, yeah, good outcome, and I hope councillors support it.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Just to echo much of what Bernadette and Cook have said, but again to thank our community for going on this journey with us and for being patient and for providing their feedback through this whole process. And yeah, really glad that we're at this junction right now and can hopefully progress to getting the new contract completed.
Cool, thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion is carried. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could an officer bring the mayor back, please?
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. We'll now move to agenda item 10.5, Councillor and Developer Interaction Policy. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Thomas.
That council adopt the councillor and developer interaction policy shown at attachment 1.
Can I call for a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Yengi. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
I'll just say a few words because I do like to speak to these governance reports. So this is a new policy for council, and I think it's a really good idea to just sort of establish how councillors should and can interact with developers and with the support of the organisation. So yeah, thanks to the officers for putting it together because it makes it really clear for us now what the guidelines are and how to meet those guidelines. So recommend it to all the councillors to vote for it.
Yep. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Just echoing what Bernadette's just said, but just wanting to add that with these guidelines now in place, I guess the community also has visibility and can have a look through the guidelines so they know what it is that we're beholden to as well.
Yep. Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.6, Annual Community Satisfaction Survey 2025. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yengi.
Sure. That council note the findings of the Maribyrnong City Council 2025 Annual Community Satisfaction Survey shown at attachment 1.
Can I call for a seconder? Councillor Lam. Are there any points of questions or clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
I'll just say a couple of words. First, to thank the community for taking the time to participate in this community satisfaction survey. If I remember correctly, I think this is the third time where we've actually seen increased improvements in the satisfaction survey, which is fantastic for us because I think it's a great indicator that, you know, we're on the right path and, you know, providing services to the community and the community is happy about that. There were a couple of things that came out through this which I think are really important items for council to look at in terms of improvements. So hopefully over the next couple of months our officers will be putting together some feedback in terms of how we're going to resolve on some of the items that were raised by the community. But overall, from the information that was gathered, we sort of performed either in line with the other councils, or we were above the state average. So that's, I think, really fantastic for Maribyrnong. And it just shows, what a great work our team, the organisation does and the staff do to be able to deliver quality service to our community.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Thomas.
I'd just like to give a shout out to the CEO and her team because really we wouldn't get. Oh, the seconder needs to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yes. I think for me, every year that I really interested to see that community satisfaction survey to come up. And I think we're improving every year. And not because of that, because our council, we look at the customer first. And we always concentrate on how we provide better service to the community and to the resident. So that is very, very important. I'm very pleased to say that, and thank you so much for the staff who involved to make that happen. And this is, we can see that improving every year. So we just not stop from there. We're getting better and better all the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Councillor Thomas?
Thank you. I'll just say what I said before, so a bit of deja vu. No, just a shout out to the CEO and her team who, do all of the work on behalf of council, who are at the front line, who work with our community, all of our other service providers, contractors, etc., doing a great job. So thank you to all of you, and I hope you can pass that on to the staff on behalf, from councillors as well. And I'm really pleased to see that the library is still in the top 5 services that people love. So, because I love it too. So thanks and well done, everyone.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Then I'll just reiterate what fellow councillors have said. We have scored high satisfaction levels, and it is a testament to the work that staff do at the City of Maribyrnong, a lot of it unseen. So I'd like to say a massive thank you to all the staff that go above and beyond to deliver for the community, and it was well represented in our community satisfaction surveys, which are the highest ever recorded in over 22 years of the annual survey program. With that being said, we'll now put the motion to a vote. I'll declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.7, Australia Local Government Association 2026 National General Assembly. Call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Lam.
Official recommendation that Council endorse the motion for submission to the 2026 Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly as shown in the table 1 of this report.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Pereira. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
I've formally moved, but I would like to say that encourage people to have a look at the motion that we put it up here for consideration.
Yep. The second I'd like to speak to the motion.
The Australian Local Government National General Assembly is an opportunity for us to advocate directly to the federal government. We've put up 9 motions listed below, and they include one on climate and disaster resilience, proposing a levy on fossil fuel extraction to fund climate adaptation and disaster response, one on First Nations partnerships to dedicate funding to support culturally safe engagement and closing the gap priorities, which we know are important to our community, some on road safety and transport, looking at safer standards for large vehicles, prioritising pedestrian and cyclist safety rather than just occupant safety, and funding for active transport, which we know the federal government did a program that was oversubscribed and very popular, and so we're encouraging them to expand that, and also looking at speed limit reductions around sensitive areas such as schools and high pedestrian areas, as well as investment in social housing renewal, because we know that we don't have adequate funding at the state level, as well as support for cooperative and community-led and alternative tenure models to increase the capacity of the housing provision across the state and the country. These motions strengthen our national advocacy voice. They address climate resilience, housing, safety, funding, sustainability and community wellbeing, issues that matter to us locally, but also issues that matter to local government across the country. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Then I'll put the motion up for a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.8, independent peer panels, terms of reference. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Thomas.
That Council 1, note the proposed model for an organisation-wide independent panellist list. 2, adopt the terms of reference for independent peer panels shown at attachment 1. And 3, note that officers will undertake an expression of interest process in accordance with the terms of reference and selection criteria shown in attachment 2 and present a proposed panellist list to Council for endorsement.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Pereira. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Thanks. This is sort of the next step, I guess, in bringing, I guess, just a little more governance around our grants programs, and it's really a great idea to establish a single panel with various expertises of people who can come together and have a look at the various grants program and make recommendations to council. So we'll have a single pool, and those people will review, they'll be selected, and then they'll review the various individual grants programs and then make a recommendation to council. There's a terms of reference that guides what they do, and council officers will have expressions of interest and allocate people to the independent panels, so that there's a very clear process about who comes onto the panel and why and what skills they bring to the panel. So I think this is a really positive improvement, and looking forward to the first sort of round of making use of our new panel members. Thanks.
Would another councillor like to speak to the motion? Then in that case, I will say a few comments. We put so much effort into assessing grants. Look at the proposal tonight, and I believe it is a lot of effort for just 250,000 when we had 1 million in grant applications last year. I think we should potentially explore to give our peer panel more funding to allocate in 2026, 2027. That being said, we'll put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll move to agenda item 10.9, Maribyrnong Youth Advisory Committee, updated terms of reference. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Pereira.
Worked. Yep. Okay. That Council 1 adopt the Youth Advisory Committee terms of reference as shown in attachment 1, and 2, note that officers will appoint members of the Maribyrnong Youth Advisory Committee in accordance with the terms of reference.
Call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Tuari. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yep, just that I'm glad to say that I'm the new chair of the Youth Advisory Committee, and I'm very excited to join them, and thank you to Mohammed for graciously letting me have a turn as the second youngest person on council, I think. So hopefully many of the participants in the Advisory Committee will be sitting in these seats in the near future. I'm glad to see that these terms of reference have been drafted with the MIAC members, and so we can be sure to be aligned from the outset in our shared work. MIAC is an incredible resource to council to bring the voice of young people into the decision making that we do, and I'm excited for our first meeting, which is happening tomorrow night.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion?
Could I ask?
Yep. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? With that being said, we'll put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Move to agenda item 10.10, Audit and Risk Committee. Appointment of Chair. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Tuari.
That council resolve to appoint independent member Marilyn Kearney as chair to the Audit and Risk Committee from February 2026 to December 2028.
Call for councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Just to say, welcome Marilyn. I think she brings a lot of experience and expertise, and she'll do a wonderful job in that role.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Now put the motion to a vote. Councillor Yankee, if you can vote. I declare the motion carried. Agenda item 10.11, Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Report, November 2025. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yankee.
That council endorse the Audit and Risk Committee Biannual Report November 2025 shown at attachment 1.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? We'll now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Now on agenda item 10.12, Council Support and Expenses Report, July 2025 to September 2025. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Lam.
What's it up? Sorry. Is it 10.11? That council noted the councillor support and expenses report for the July 2025 to September 2025 period shown at attachment 1 to be made available via council's website for the term of council.
Can I call for councillor to second the motion? Councillor Pereira. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I declare the motion. I put the motion to a vote. Okay, I declare the motion carried. We'll now go on to agenda item 10.13, Governance Report, December 2025 and January 2026. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Thomas.
That council note the December 2025 and January 2026 governance report.
Call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Now put the motion up for a vote. Okay, Councillor Lam. Sure, if you can vote. Motion carried. Agenda item 11.1. Notice of motion 2026-01 vacant development sites. I call for Councillor Meredith to move a motion.
Thank you. It's a long one, this one, so sit tight. That Council notes the ongoing impacts of long-term vacant and underutilised land within the City of Maribyrnong, particularly in the Footscray CBD, including multiple strategically located sites with existing planning approvals that have remained inactive for extended periods, and the associated impacts on community safety, amenity, housing delivery, and local economic activity. 2, acknowledges that while Council can encourage and facilitate development, it has no statutory authority to compel development or require interim activation of privately owned land, with key legislative, planning and taxation powers held instead by the Victorian Government. And 3, requests that the Mayor write to the Minister for Planning and the Minister for Housing, requesting a review and reform of legislation and policy to A, prevent land within designated activity centres from being held vacant indefinitely following the grant of a planning permit, B, introduce clear enforceable mechanisms that require or incentivise interim activation of approved but undeveloped sites where development has not commenced within a defined timeframe, particularly where long-term vacancy is impacting amenity, safety and housing supply. C, explore economic levers to facilitate development where market conditions are preventing projects from coming forward within designated activity centres.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith.
Thank you.
I call for Councillor's second motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. So Footscray CBD is identified as one of the Victorian Government's priority precincts and is a designated major activity centre intended to support higher density housing, employment services and activity in a highly accessible urban location right next to the train station. Within the Footscray CBD, there are a significant number of vacant long-term vacant sites and underutilised sites, including multiple strategically located parcels that already hold approved planning permits. Collectively, these approvals could deliver thousands of new dwellings and substantial street activity. Despite this, many sites have remained inactive for extended periods, in some cases for more than a decade. In Footscray, extended inactivity on centrally located approved sites has contributed to delayed housing delivery, reduced economic activity and street activation, and has had negative impacts on amenity and perceptions of safety. These outcomes run counter to the intent of the Victorian planning provisions, which seek to concentrate growth in activity centres that are accessible, well-serviced locations, supported by significant public investment in transport, infrastructure and services. This situation reflects a structural gap in the Victorian planning system. While planning permits enable development, the state planning framework does not require approved development to be delivered or sites to be activated within a meaningful timeframe. As a result, planning approval can be secured without any corresponding obligation to build or activate, allowing approved sites to remain inactive for years. While Council actively encourages development, engages with landowners and supports voluntary interim activation where possible, its statutory powers are limited. Council cannot compel development or require interim use of privately owned land once a planning permit has been issued. The legislative and policy settings that enable long-term vacancy on approved land sites sit with the Victorian Government. Similarly, where challenging market conditions are barriers to development being brought forward, Council has very little control over taxes, charges and limited resources to provide economic stimulus. This motion seeks to advocate for state legislative and policy reform to address the issue of vacant development sites in activity centres by strengthening the link between planning approval and delivery, enabling or requiring interim activation of well-located sites where development is delayed, and exploring economic levers to facilitate delivery of development. These reforms would support housing supply, economic activity and community wellbeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. I call on the seconder. Do you want to speak to the motion?
I'll just say a couple of things, because Councillor Meredith has outlined it very thoroughly, but I suppose just to emphasise that Council doesn't have the levers to force applicants to develop their sites even after approval. So we really do need the state government to either give us that that responsibility or that whatever that word is, or enact that themselves. Because if anybody who's been on the socials across Maribyrnong knows that this is a topic of conversation that comes up frequently, and council is often asked, why aren't we doing X? And we know, the current mayor's been very active on it, the deputy mayor's been very active on it, the previous mayor's very active on this, but we're hamstrung by what council can do under the planning scheme. So maybe this will give the Minister for Planning a little nudge, and the Minister for Housing as well, to make some change.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Dwyer?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm sure we all share the same frustration when we see all these prominent sites sitting empty, and the vacancy affects confidence and impacts the surrounding businesses as well. But we also need to be realistic, because as Councillor Thomas and Councillor Meredith mentioned, council cannot force private landowners to develop. Our statutory powers in this space are limited, and punitive approaches may not deliver practical outcomes. So instead of only focusing on what we cannot do, I actually want to make a constructive appeal to the vacant landowners in our city. If you are not ready to develop, please consider temporary activation. We have seen this work, including at the former Belgravia Hotel site, where activation brought life and activity back into a vacant space. Temporary use reduces blight, improves safety through activity, and supports the local traders while long-term plans are considered. Doing nothing helps no one. So if development is not imminent, let's work together and activate and take our city forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tawari. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I just wanted to add around the new housing activity centres that there's, I think, quite a lot of focus on that as a planning scheme amendment, and we haven't seen the business case to show that development stacks up at those levels, because it's already, many of them are already quite underdeveloped and could go to 3 or 4 stories under the current planning. And so the increase to 6 or 8 or 12, if that doesn't actually stack up from a development finance perspective now, then there's a real risk that currently occupied houses will be nevertheless bought now, but then held in as in land banking until the market increases to meet construction costs. So I think it's something that we have to be very aware about, the new housing activity planning scheme amendments, and how do we make sure we mitigate against the possibility of increased development, but without a robust conversation about how we actually ensure development.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Yengi?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I support this motion in principle, which is why I'm going to vote yes, but I think ultimately I have to ask what our ultimate goal here is and what impact we're hoping to realise through this motion, because I've previously raised in our councillor discussions, I guess I don't believe that this is the most effective approach to advocating and addressing this issue, and frankly I don't think that this NOM is going to achieve the impact that we might want to see. Like, obviously we're all frustrated with the vacant land situation in Maribyrnong, around Maribyrnong and in Footscray in particular, but these issues aren't unique to Maribyrnong Council, and I think that if we actually want to achieve real impact, then we probably should be exploring other levers, such as collaborating with other councils and the Municipal Association of Victoria to develop a joint position statement and then approach the state government collectively, as I believe this will, have greater impact rather than raising motions, which I feel this one is, of symbolic gestures. So I just felt, there's probably a bit of work that we probably needed to do and should be doing behind the scenes to collaborate with other councils, really to strengthen the ask and our position, and then going in collectively rather than this, which again I don't think is going to deliver much impact at all.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. Would the mover like to exercise their right of reply?
Yes, please. I think it has the impact in actually communicating, firstly, to the community that we have their back, that we are advocating. Secondly, to correct some of the misinformation about what is the responsibility behind this, that it is a gap in the planning. And thirdly, you can still keep going with the advocacy, and I really support and hope that people do keep pushing forward with the advocacy to higher levels, as you clearly, as you indicated just then that you want to. So I encourage that very much so.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to, my question really was just around whether, if it's about communicating, there are ways to communicate that we're, advocating on this issue to community, which as Councillor Bernadette mentioned earlier, everyone has been advocating on this issue. I just don't know whether we need to do a nom for it.
Yeah, I'm happy with the nom, and I think it's great. And
Okay, thank you. We'll end it there. We'll now put the motion to the vote. I declare the motion carried. Agenda item 11.2, notice of motion 2026-02 VicHealth. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Pereira.
Thanks. A motion on VicHealth. That Council 1 notes the critical role played by VicHealth, Victoria's world-leading independent health promotion foundation set up with support across the political spectrum in keeping communities in Maribyrnong healthy, active and well, pioneering the SunSmart program, This Girl Can, Victoria's first breast screening and cervical cancer screening, among many other initiatives. 2, notes the direct community initiatives in Maribyrnong have been delivered thanks to partnerships with VicHealth, including work to prevent violence against women, quit smoking and access council-level groundbreaking initiatives on healthy and sustainable food systems, such as Food First in the West. Council notes the leverage of VicHealth's partnerships enabling council to access work across different parts of the food system, and in turn increasing access to fresh, locally grown food in our community. 3, notes that for every dollar spent on public health, early intervention and prevention saves on future health costs by averting more costly and chronic health issues down the line. 4, calls on the Victorian Government to reverse their decision to absorb VicHealth's role and function into the Department of Health. 5, request that the Mayor write to the Minister for Health, Mary-Ann Thomas MP, to express A, Council's strong support for VicHealth as a critical partner driving positive health outcomes for our community. B, a call for genuine adequate consultation with local government and peak bodies, including the Municipal Association of Victoria, MAV, prior to any changes to VicHealth's role, funding or focus. And 6, request the Mayor write to the state members of Parliament that are representatives for the electorates that include the City of Maribyrnong area to notify them of this motion, Council's position and seek their advocacy and support on this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. I'll call for Councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Sure. VicHealth provides critical added capacity to councils' health and wellbeing work through trusted place-based partnerships across the City of Maribyrnong. Its independence matters because it allows for strong advocacy on commercial determinants of health, whether it's tobacco, vaping or unhealthy food systems, and helps ensure prevention stays firmly on the agenda. Our community has consistently highlighted the value of VicHealth's prevention work, particularly around food, health and food security, active living initiatives, including programs that support women's wellbeing and improving health literacy about cancer-causing factors. Even with the assurance of funding continuity, any weakening of prevention capacity risks worsening inequality, increasing pressure on already stretched council services and shifting avoidable illness into the acute health system. Protecting prevention is essential for healthier, more resilient communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. And the second, I'd like to speak to the motion.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, look, I think the point about keeping an independent organisation separate to the Department of Health, which has operated very, very successfully for a long time, which has support across the health sector, the very broad health sector, physical and mental health sector, and across the political divide, frankly. So I think you know, sometimes when reviews of government services are done, it can be easy to sort of take a bit of a, you know, to cut things which might, for some reason, where there might be savings, but actually what is the opportunity cost of making that change? And I think there will be a very big opportunity cost. VicHealth provides so many wonderful programs. I love the This Girl Can program, and, you know, particularly a number of programs specifically for women in the preventative health area. So I'd really like to see it stay, and I'm hoping that councillors will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion?
No.
Councillor Tuari?
Yeah, I just want to make a brief comment on the motion and reiterating what the previous councillor said. I want to acknowledge and genuinely value the important role that VicHealth has played in prevention and health promotion over many years, including programs that have benefited community like ours. Prevention absolutely matters, and early intervention reduces long-term pressure on service across all levels of government. But at the same time, I recognise that this is ultimately a structural decision being made at state level. And while I understand the concerns raised, I'm also mindful that Council's direct influence in that space is limited beyond advocating through formal correspondence. So for me, the key issue is ensuring that prevention programs, partnerships, and funding that support Maribyrnong are maintained and strengthened. If those outcomes are protected, then that is what matters most for our community. So while I approach this motion cautiously, my focus remains firmly on ensuring strong local health outcomes and continued investment in prevention for our residents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tuari. Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Then I will now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to the next agenda item. I will vacate the chair and invite Deputy Mayor to assume chair for this item.
Start from the top. Yeah, yeah. I thought you meant from the top. Okay, yeah. Okay, now we move to agenda item 11.3, notice of motion 2026-03, Footscray Park, management, maintenance and community use. I call for Councillor Semra to move the motion, to move a motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I move that Council reaffirms the cultural, environmental and heritage significance of Footscray Park, including the Thompson Water Gardens, and Council's responsibility to act as a careful custodian of these public assets for current and future generations. 2, request that officers prepare a report for the March 2026 Council meeting outlining the progression of works to reinstate the Thompson Water Gardens, including the ponds. B, the process for the planning and implementation of a new playground in Footscray Park in alignment with the Footscray Park Master Plan. C, a summary of the current and planned seasonal maintenance program for Footscray Park, including the eastern lawn area and opportunities for future improvements. And D, an update on the progression of the draft Footscray Park Master Plan.
Thank you. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Tawari. Are there any questions or points of clarification? No. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I put forward this motion because Footscray Park is more than open space. It's part of our community's identity. It holds cultural, environmental and heritage significance. And with that comes a clear responsibility for us to care for it, protect it and plan for its future. I want to acknowledge the Thompson Water Gardens and the Ponds, a place I myself grew up visiting, and I know many people that, newlyweds that got photos and had long-lasting memories. We also recognize the tragic drownings that occurred there. The decision to close the ponds by the previous council was difficult, but necessary. Safety must always come first. But our responsibility does not end there. It extends to what comes next. Our community has been clear. They want to see progress on reinstating the water gardens, progress on delivering a new playground, and progress on maintaining the park to the standard it deserves. That is why the Footscray Park Master Plan Review, which I chair, is important and matters. It sets the long-term vision. But vision, as we all know, must lead to action. This motion is about transparency and momentum, because this park is not just land, it is memory, it is belonging, and we are custodians to one of the oldest intact Edwardian parks. Our community, I believe, has been patient, understanding, and they care deeply about this park. Tonight, this motion is about reaffirming what we hear, that we share their commitment, and that we are focused on ensuring meaningful progress. And I would also like to highlight, that there is some great conversations and discussions happening from a perspective of being on the committee myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. I just want to express my strong support for this motion. And as the Mayor mentioned, Footscray Park is one of the most significant heritage parks in our city and has served generations of residents and remains one of our most important green spaces. So this motion is also about keeping the community informed as we move forward with the master plan, the reinstatement of the Thompson Water Gardens and planning for a new playground. And I particularly welcome the request for clarity around seasonal maintenance, including the eastern lawn area. I think many of us would like to see healthy grass restored there in time, like I certainly would. And to the community, I want to reassure you, Footscray Park is and will be one of our priorities. It's too important not to be. So we are custodians of this park for future generations, as the Mayor mentioned, and I look forward to seeing clear progress updates and tangible improvements in the months ahead. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, I this year joined the Mayor on the Footscray Park Advisory Committee, and I think the vibe I got from the meeting last week was that the members of the committee are happy with how the consultation has gone, with the process, and we had a very thorough overview of that at the meeting. So everybody's kind of up to speed on that, which is really good. So it seems like, at least in that part of, related to the motion, that work is progressing really well, and the committee was really pleased to hear their thoughts and their ideas and their feedback and their input reflected back at them as part of the communication about the consultation and engagement. So that was good.
Thank you. Would any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No? Okay, great. I will now put the motion to the vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare that the motion is carried. Thanks. Yep, swap back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Meredith. We now move to Councillor question time. Councillor question time is managed in accordance with Council's governance rules. Councillor question time is limited for 15 minutes unless councillors consent to an extension. Is there any questions, councillors, that you have? No questions? That was a quick one. Okay. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? Okay. Are there any items of a confidential business to be tabled at this meeting? No. Well, with all that being said, it was a long meeting and about to finish just before 10 p.m. If we went any longer than 10 p.m., we would have had to adjourn the meeting. But I declare the meeting closed at 9:38 p.m.